The story begins in a dimly lit hospital room, where a young man lies motionless on a sterile bed. The quiet atmosphere is punctuated only by the faint rustling of withering leaves outside the window, as a single petal drifts lazily through the air, settling gently onto his face. With a sudden jerk, the young man awakens, his eyes darting open in shock. His chest rises and falls with frantic breaths, signaling a state of confusion and distress. Immediately, he pushes himself upright, clutching the blanket in a desperate attempt to make sense of his surroundings. In that instant, he becomes painfully aware that his body is different. His legs, once strong and capable, are now absent, replaced by smooth, unfeeling stumps. A surge of anger and frustration floods his mind. He tries to move his legs, to stretch them out, but in this new existence, they are merely remnants, limbs that no longer serve their purpose. His face contorts with fury as he questions aloud, "What time is it?" Though the room remains silent, an unseen presence seems to linger, watching his reactions closely. From a corner of the room, a voice calls out softly. It is a woman, a girl, who rushes toward him with overwhelming emotion. Tears stream down her face as she exclaims, "Finally, you've awakened. I've been hoping this moment would come for a long time." She hurriedly embraces him in a warm, reassuring hug, her voice trembling with relief. She makes a solemn vow to find the person responsible for the accident, that cruel driver who had fled the scene, and promises that her brother's legs will be restored. Her words are filled with unwavering hope and conviction. As he processes her words, the young man begins to realize the truth. His consciousness has traveled back in time, not just a few days or weeks, but a full year. The realization hits him like a thunderclap. He has reverted to the aftermath of a fatal car crash, the event that had shattered his life, where a man spun out of control, flew through the air, and was left broken on the asphalt, has now come full circle. That terrible accident marked the end of his life as a rising young billionaire, full of promise and ambition. Now all that remains is a loss that changed everything. In the aftermath of the crash, a girl had rushed to his side. She had been there to rescue him, willing to risk everything for his safety. But that single act of bravery seemed to set off a chain of misfortunes. Shortly after, the girl, once his closest confidant, became wheelchair-bound herself, her life irrevocably altered. From that moment onward, everything began to decline. His health, his prosperity, his relationships. The door opens abruptly, breaking his thoughts. A figure enters, calling out a name, Shin. The boy, overwhelmed with despair, turns his head slowly toward the figure. The woman inside the room, with a gentle yet somber tone, calls out again. "Tianai?" she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "Your brother brought some things to help you recover." Her words are filled with hope, but beneath her calm exterior lies the burden of heavy worries. The young man's mind races as he recognizes the name. Shin Yanai, his brother's closest friend, whose presence he once trusted implicitly. That friend, however, had betrayed him at the most vulnerable moment. Exploiting his weakened state, Shin Yanai seized control of the international conglomerate that the protagonist had built with his own sweat and intelligence. His trust had been shattered, replaced by treachery. What makes this betrayal even more bitter is Shin Yanai's cunning use of his ill health. He manipulated the young man's fragile condition to coerce his sister into marriage, an alliance designed solely to secure power and wealth. Fortunately, Shin Yanai was not a blood relative, but a family friend, which gave him some leverage. He had told her that marrying him would guarantee her brother's future. A future free of worries, free of debts, and filled with security. Desperation clung to her like armor. She was pushed into a corner, struggling between loyalty and hope. Meanwhile, Shin Yanai's greed knew no bounds. Seeing the opportunity, he invested heavily in a new venture, a game called Divine Path. Initially, it appeared to be a simple, highly realistic virtual experience, but its groundbreaking feature was the complete alignment between gameplay attributes and reality itself. The in-game currency gained value outside the digital world, and items purchased within the game could influence the real environment. However, the twist came swiftly and unexpectedly. The attributes, skills, and powers acquired in Divine Path started manifesting in the actual life of the players. Problems arose when Shun Yunai's opponent, Shun Qin, recognized the danger this presented. He knew that if he could harness these real-world effects, he might finally have a chance to settle old scores. In the beginning, Shun Qin had no opportunity to compete. He lacked the necessary resources and skills to level up quickly within the game. The others, bolstered by the in-game currency and top-tier equipment purchased with Shun Yunai's ill-gotten gains, rapidly surpassed him. Shun Yunai, utilizing his wealth, created an elite guild, an invincible force that dominated the digital realm and, by extension, threatened his enemies. Despite Shun Yunai's vast advantages, Shun Qin's resolve remained unbroken. He understood that the most valuable assets, his own skills, his power, belonged to himself, not Shun Yunai. Yet, Shun Yunai was a cunning adversary. In a cruel twist, he lured Shun Qin into a trap, setting explosives in the house as a sinister test of his resolve. The plan was to end Shun Qin once and for all. That day was the culmination of Shun Yunai's twisted plan. As Shun Qin confronted him, the chaos erupted. Shun Yunai pressed the detonator with a wicked grin, ready to obliterate everything in a fiery explosion. In the ensuing chaos, Shun Qin's legs had already vanished, lost in the wreckage, his arms gone or shattered. Despite that, he refused to give up. His heart burned with a desire for justice, for revenge. Tianai, Shun Qin's brother, watched with a cold and frankly indifferent expression as Shun Yunai taunted Shun Qin from above, his voice dripping with malice. "It's amusing that you think this will kill me," Shun Yunai sneered, "but I suppose we'll find out soon enough." He pressed the button again, and the house erupted in flames. Shun Qin, battered and broken, lay on the ground, contemplating the end. Unexpectedly, Shun Yunai's confidence faltered momentarily. As he stood over the fallen figure, he saw Shun Qin, standing upright, and scathed, baleful eyes blazing with defiance. Shun Yunai's arrogance shattered. With the divine attributes he had accumulated, Shun Qin knew that death was impossible for him. His resilience, fortified by his abilities, defied all expectations. Tianai stepped forward, arrogant and relentless. He pushed Shun Qin's head into the ground, crowing, "Before you die, I will teach you something." It was cruel. It was bitter. Shun Yunai revealed that Shun Qin had been behind the death of their parents, as well as the accident that had cost him his legs. His words cut deep into Shun Qin's soul, exposing the very source of his deepest pain. The cruel irony was that Shun Yunai was destined to have a child with his sister, an act that would forever entwine Shun Yunai's bloodline with theirs. The thought filled Shun Qin with despair. Despite his broken body, legs lost, arms shattered, he'd vowed to never forget or forgive Shun Yunai's treachery, no matter how much pain he endured. As the scene in his mind faded, and reality seeped back in, Shun Qin found himself overwhelmed by uncertainty. He had no idea why he had been reincarnated in this particular moment, or what purpose it served. Yet, as he turned toward his sister, a promise formed in his mind: to cease her tears, to stand strong once more, and to protect everything his family had built. He swore that in this life, he would shield her from harm, guard their remaining loved ones, and avenge the wrongs inflicted upon them. His focus sharpened. The chance to change fate hung before him, even as his body was crippled and broken. The window of opportunity was limited. The delicate balance between his current strength and the enemy's might depended on timing. The key lay in the upcoming release of the Divine Path game. Its impact on the real world was yet to be understood fully, but the consequences could be catastrophic, especially if Shun Yunai's machinations manipulated these effects for his own gain. Shun Qin realized that the game's attributes, once a source of advantage or peril, could turn the tide either way. He considered the current moment critically. The game's launch was imminent. It would take at least a month before the true extent of its influence became clear. This was his critical period, a narrow window in which he could act, could rally, before Shun Yunai's dominance became unchallengeable. Meanwhile, his sister, noticing his pained expression, worriedly asked whether he was hurt. He answered that he would call a doctor, but deep inside, he knew that there were more pressing issues. He confided in her, requesting assistance to acquire a gaming station, an essential device for the new Divine Path game. She looked at him puzzled, unsure of what he meant. Why was he so preoccupied with this game? Why did he need such equipment? In her confusion, she watched as Shin Yanai entered the room. Her brother's attitude shifted subtly when Shin Yanai appeared. The tone of their conversation revealed underlying tension. Shin Yanai, dressed casually, pretended innocence. He exclaimed, "Since when has my older brother become so interested in video games?" His words carried an undertone of warning. You know, getting hooked on this could be dangerous, especially if there's a company involved that's watching everything. Shun Qin understood immediately that Shin Yanai was attempting to provoke him. His instincts told him to be cautious. Nonetheless, Shin Qin was quick to realize Shin Yanai's plan. Shin Yanai sought to distract him, perhaps to buy time or to deceive him about his true intentions. Shin Qin's focus was on the game's impending launch and the chance it represented to turn the tides of fate. Yet, Shin Yanai's words lingered. Now that you're immobilized, your options are limited. All you can do is play video games. With a mocking smile, Shin Yanai continued, "This Divine Path game is about to come out, but it's extremely expensive. If I remember correctly, only 100 units will be available at launch, costing over 300 million. Shin Qin, ignoring the price, replied firmly, "The company's money is mine. Even if it costs 30 billion, I would buy one." His sister tried to caution him, telling him not to react so impulsively. But Shin Yanai only chuckled softly, satisfied with his manipulations, and said, "Since you want it so badly, I'll buy it for you." In the world of virtual adventures and digital battles, Tianai's joy was palpable upon hearing the latest update. His face lit up with satisfaction, a smile spreading across his lips as he soaked in the news. The more time the young player invested in the game, the easier it would be for those vying for control to seize the company's assets. A strategic move he anticipated with keen interest. Yet, a sense of calm washed over him, for he knew that his own plans for the corporation were well underway. He reassured his sister that there was no reason to worry. His intention was to venture into this new realm personally, to immerse himself fully in its intricacies. To that end, he promised to purchase a high-tier account for her, ensuring she would enjoy the experience as much as he did. "You need not fret about the company," he said confidently, "because I will handle everything. My focus is solely on thriving here." In a sudden motion, Tianai grabbed his sister's arm gently, pulling her closer. His gaze was determined, filled with a mix of excitement and resolve. "Tom will spend more time with me now," he declared, signaling a shift in his plans. Meanwhile, San Qin, a warrior with fierce loyalty and protective instinct, swore that he would never permit that despicable, filthy bastard to lay a finger on his sister. His voice was firm, laced with anger and determination, a vow to keep her safe at all costs. Tianai, ever composed, nodded at his friend's declaration. "It's okay," he said softly, "but to establish dominance here, I'll need resources. A considerable investment, 50 million gold coins, are required." As the words left his lips, he referenced the conversion rate of the currency, which equated to roughly $7 million. The price for this mysterious chest was absurdly steep, an almost ludicrous expense. Yet, Tianai had already sold the company without hesitation and promptly deposited the funds into his virtual account. He understood that the real-world value of money was diminishing with each passing moment. As items within this digital universe gained prominence, traditional currencies would only lose their worth. Furthermore, rare talents were challenging to acquire, making their time-limited nature even more precious. The possibility of obtaining a single talent that could revolutionize his gameplay, like the one he once acquired in his past life, which increased damage inflicted by hemorrhage, was invaluable. That talent had enabled him to triumph in countless battles, an edge that now motivated his investment. With the money at his disposal, Tianai achieved a significant milestone. He managed to transfer an astonishing 500 million gold coins into the game. Feeling a surge of anticipation, he clicked yes to open a colossal chest, which emitted a blinding beam of golden light reaching toward the heavens. The spectacle was awe-inspiring. What he received electrified him to his core, a talent capable of evolving anything. It was an ability he hadn't even known existed, yet it promised unparalleled power. Suddenly, an enormous, majestic elf appeared before him, adorned with a crown of crackling lightning. The elf announced that the talent had been successfully equipped. With that, Tianai was ready to embark on his pursuit of monsters and glory. He felt a thrill of excitement because this talent defied his expectations. It was not just a passive boost, but an extraordinary catalyst capable of transforming his potential. More remarkably, the talent granted him the ability to enhance any object obtained from monsters. With a 5% chance, equivalent to 1 in 20, any item could rise in rank by 2 levels. There was also an active skill, usable once every 24 hours, to upgrade an object by 2 levels, with a %chance to push it even further by 3 levels. Although the talent only affected objects and not his attributes directly, Tianai understood that stronger gear would make him far more formidable in the game universe. He felt a surge of confidence as he raised his arms and summoned a gauntlet into his hands. "This will change my future," he said quietly, a grin spreading across his face. Walking through the bustling city, Tianai recognized that he was in a prime position to excel. While others were still outfitting themselves with basic bronze gear, he was already prepared with silver-level equipment, an achievement that required considerable investment. He considered the wise decision to spend all his resources, his entire treasury, on this venture. The prospects of acquiring high-level gear justified every penny. His impatience to dive into the current challenge was undeniable. He longed to hunt monsters, gather objects, and improve his arsenal immediately. Yet, beneath all that excitement lay a cautious plan. He had to be mindful of his one active skill, the 24-hour cooldown on evolution. He knew that obtaining something with substantial potential for evolution, especially in terms of talents, was the key to overtaking others. With all preparations in place, he activated the system interface, and the entry point to the game world appeared before him like a shining portal. His heart pounded with anticipation. It was time to rewrite his destiny. The scene shifted abruptly. Tianai found himself in a humble starting village, surrounded by a swarm of players, many of whom were already well-established and loaded with resources. His initial impression was one of surprise. He had expected to be among the earliest to spawn, but instead, a throng of players was busy hunting chickens and leveling up their characters. Some others joined the fray, chasing fleeing poultry creatures with eager determination. It appeared that everyone was competing for the smallest gains, engaging in petty skirmishes over insignificant rewards. For Tianai, though, such trivial pursuits were pointless. He saw no value in fighting over insignificant creatures. His goal was clear. He needed to target something that truly mattered, something that could yield significant benefits. His immediate objective was to eliminate the boss of the initial zone and claim the bounty for the first kill, thereby gaining a crucial advantage early on. The system warned him to exercise caution when entering the wilderness, but Tianai dismissed the advice. His reasoning was straightforward. The only quick way to level up was by confronting dangerous foes. His focus was on gaining an edge rapidly, even if it meant taking risks. The challenge was that he required a strategic advantage over the other players, something that would set him apart from the crowd. As he recalled, this talent also had the ability to evolve his existing skills and talents. With hope and confidence, he activated his elven lineage's evolution. He raised his hands and initiated the process. Suddenly, a majestic elf appeared, crowned with lightning bolts, and was enveloped in a radiant gold aura. The evolution succeeded, and his bloodline was upgraded to the highest tier, transforming him into a true elf royal. This evolution brought tangible improvements. His speed increased, his precision sharpened, and most impressively, he gained a critical hit every third attack. Watching his health bar rise steadily, Tianai knew that the investment had been worthwhile. These attributes alone would not only enable him to start strongly but also survive the fiercest battles that awaited him. He was now prepared. Nothing could stop him from claiming his space in this digital realm. Yet, he remained cautious, aware that every new step could bring unforeseen dangers. As he moved forward, he kept a keen eye on his surroundings. The wilderness was fraught with peril, yet each threat was an opportunity to grow stronger, faster. Further into the forest, he heard an ominous howl. Curious, he looked around and spotted a lone level 2 wolf from the forest of shadows. Other adventurers had already begun hunting and shouting, eager to kill the creature and gain experience. They understood that forming alliances and hunting stronger monsters was the fastest route to leveling up. San Chin, hiding behind a large tree nearby, observed quietly. He knew these players were intelligent. Collectively, they recognized that grouping together and attacking more formidable foes was the most efficient approach. But he also realized that they underestimated the realism of the game. Many of them believed it was just a simulation, a mere simulation. But the layers of authenticity were far deeper. Just then, the mage leading the group sensed something amiss. He called out to his companions, alerting them of approaching enemies, wolves that typically hunted in packs. Before long, the pack of wolves encircled the group, their predatory eyes gleaming as they prepared to strike. The scene unfolded with startling realism. The wolves pounced, attacking with ferocity, their bites eliciting a sharp sting that felt far more tangible than expected. The players, caught off guard, panicked as the savage beasts inflicted painful bites. They quickly realized that this was no ordinary game. There was a visceral brutality to the combat that made every attack feel genuinely dangerous. The initial confidence turned into fear as they faced the brutality of true wilderness survival. In the chaos, one of the adventurers, overwhelmed by the wolves, was torn apart. The last thing he saw was the grim expression of resolve on his face. Before he perished, he looked at his companions and declared that they would meet again at the respawn point. With those final words, the entire group was eliminated. The scene left a chilling impression of how deadly this environment truly was. While the others were under attack, San Chin seized his moment. From his hiding spot, he drew his bow with precise focus. When the wolves were distracted by the struggling group, he took advantage of their confusion. Carefully aiming, he released an arrow that struck the leading wolf directly between its eyes. The deadly shot was perfect, claiming his first kill. A pivotal achievement that pushed his level from level 1 to level 2, earning experience points for his elven bloodline. Moreover, he received 5 tribute points, virtual currency that could be used to enhance his skills, and some wolf meat, an important resource for sustenance and crafting. For a solo player, items that restored health and stamina were invaluable, especially in dangerous situations. Yet, the wolves had sensed his presence. They turned their keen senses toward him, growling with hostility. San Chin looked upward, noticing 3 wolves closing in. Confident from his recent success, he assessed his options. With the damage metrics now familiar thanks to his prior experience, he felt ready to face more. Turning around, he activated his passive skill, which increased his movement speed by 100%. Instantly, he burst into motion, darting through the trees, leaving the beasts behind. He sprinted toward the edge of a mountain, leaping from ledge to ledge with agility and precision. His elven heritage and ranger class combined seamlessly, granting him unmatched maneuverability in the wilderness. From this vantage point, he looked back, confident that the pack of wolves had little chance of catching him. His smile was one of quiet triumph. He was just beginning his journey into this brutal, lifelike world of virtual conflict. Once again, it was a startling moment for him as the wolf pack seemingly made no effort to pursue him. Instead, they simply halted in their tracks, casting unwavering, piercing gazes in his direction. It was at that precise instant that he became aware of an alert flashing across his system, an indicator that he had entered the territory of the buffalo. As he cast his eyes towards the nearby creatures, he realized with a sinking feeling that the wolves had chosen not to follow him because this zone was of a significantly higher level. A shiver ran down his spine as he acknowledged the perilous nature of his current location. A wave of apprehension coursed through him, and he watched as the wolf pack began to retreat, their figures melting into the shadows of the environment. Simultaneously, his system registered that the buffalo within this area were classified as level 5 opponents, a much more formidable challenge than he had faced before. Just as he was processing this information, a voice cut through the quiet. Another group of adventurers called out to him, inquiring if he wished to join their band. Turning around, he observed a cluster of unfamiliar figures. The group appeared to be a mix of wary individuals, each carrying weapons and worn armor that bore the signs of numerous battles. Despite the presence of a girl among them, he experienced an immediate sense of mistrust. She had addressed him earlier with a casual familiarity, calling him handsome once more, which only heightened his suspicion. The group explained that they were seeking new members to help hunt buffalo, aiming to gain experience points more rapidly than they could alone. Their objective was clear: to level up faster than the average. One of their members, a seasoned mage named MacDonald, voiced a cautionary note, emphasizing that the young man was only at level 2. He would be a hindrance and a liability if he joined their group, merely slowing down their progress. His words were blunt but honest. The mage argued that adding a level 2 player to a team of more experienced hunters would provide little benefit. San Chin, the young man, stood there puzzled, confused as to why they were so quick to dismiss him. He barely had the chance to formulate a response before they turned their backs and resumed their journey, wishing him luck, suggesting they were headed elsewhere for their pursuits. The blue-haired youth, observing the scene, asked sharply if San Chin had lost his wits, wanting to know why he would consider hunting buffalo alone. Calmly, San Chin replied that he was fundamentally a lone wolf, someone who prefers to operate solo for efficiency's sake. Despite their warnings, they insisted that he be cautious, warning him that the next zone was even more dangerous, and that even for their group of 4, venturing into it would be risky. The chubby member of the group then inquired if he was aware of the penalty for dying within the game, to which San Chin responded that he was a novice and had never experienced death in the game world. The experienced mage explained that dying in this virtual environment meant losing half of the accumulated gold and damaging equipment. More disturbingly, he mentioned, was the intense pain simulated during death, which was shockingly realistic. The worst consequence, however, was the loss of half of the experience points gained, an enormous setback that could hinder progression significantly. Despite this grim warning, Sun Chin expressed gratitude for the advice, acknowledging that he had learned valuable lessons from seasoned players such as these. The girl suggested that perhaps they should reconsider and help him, especially since hunting alone was inherently dangerous. The mage, MacDonald, scoffed at the idea, dismissing the concern and remarking that if the young man was foolish enough to want to die, there was little they could do to stop him. After a while, San Chin finally left the group, heading toward another destination, determined to forge his own path. He ventured into a dark cavern, where he soon discovered a skeletal remains sprawled across the ground, a clear sign that this was the place he had been seeking. It was a zone known for harboring the strongest boss within the initial area, a challenge designed to test the mettle of even the most seasoned adventurers. Without warning, a tremor shook the cavern's walls, and a monstrous creature blazed her eyes open, revealing herself as a massive serpent, titled the King of Serpents, a level 10 adversary. Faced with this colossal beast, Sun Chin quickly activated his system's ability to detect weak points. Instantly, a marker appeared over the creature's vulnerable spot, a critical target, indicating that he had a chance to land a decisive blow. The serpent's health bar displayed a daunting 800 hit points, while San Chin's own health registered at 1,310, surprisingly high for someone at his current level. Usually, a level 2 character would only carry around 200 hit points. However, thanks to a passive ability granted by his status as a real elf, he possessed an additional 1,000 health points. This considerable boost fueled his confidence. Armed with a bow, Sun Chin drew back its string and took aim at the beast's head. The serpent's gaze fixed intensely on him. With a swift motion, it lunged to bite. The young man reacted instinctively, sidestepping just as the creature snapped at him, and immediately drew another arrow from his quiver. His first shot hit its mark, dealing only a small fraction of damage, merely 29 points, much less than he had anticipated. He was aware that, as a boss, this creature would be resilient. And indeed, it moved quickly enough to avoid further damage. Each attack was formidable. Recognizing the serpent's agility, San Chin centered himself and drew back his bow once again. His next shot was aimed at the creature's weak point, the neck, and this time it struck true, inflicting 58 points of damage. Though it was a not insubstantial blow, it was not enough to topple the beast immediately. Still, he persisted, firing subsequent arrows with patience, trying to find an opening. After some trial and error, he finally managed to land a shot that caused 58 damage, slowly whittling down the creature's health. As he worked, he became aware of an unsettling pattern. The serpent began to inhale deeply, inflating its body and releasing a cloud of venomous smoke throughout the cavern. The poisonous fumes started to sizzle into his health, at a rate of 10 hit points per second. Realizing his time was limited, he desperately calculated the remaining duration before his health would be drained to dangerous levels. Knowing he had perhaps just moments left to act before succumbing, the serpent lifted its massive form upward, positioning itself on the uppermost part of the cavern. This made hitting its head difficult. Projectiles that traveled upward required more precision. Nevertheless, Sun Chin was undeterred. He tightened his grip on his bow and shifted his aim, shouting internally that he was underestimated. His next shot was a powerful one, striking the serpent's neck and causing 116 points of damage, an impressive hit that drew a snarl from the beast. For a moment, the serpent's demeanor shifted. Perhaps sensing its vulnerability or recognizing the damage being dealt, it showed a strange expression, almost as if it was smiling. Suddenly, the creature slammed its tail onto the ground, causing a fissure to splinter outward across the floor of the cavern. The jagged cracks threatened to destabilize the ground beneath him as the terrain grew increasingly unstable. In that chaos, the serpent's form was obscured, and the young man found himself momentarily blinded. He dropped to his knees, feeling the venom latch onto him again and again, sapping his health inexorably. The health bar now displayed a perilous 600 points, reduced from nearly 1,300. At this rate, with 10 health points lost each second, he knew he would soon be on the brink of death unless he found a way to escape or defeat the creature. It was unmistakable that this devil was crafted as a fight for multiple players, not for one person alone. Given the lethal combination of poison, terrain danger, and formidable health pool, he pulled a piece of wolf meat from his inventory, instinctively knowing it would help him. The meat, infused with healing properties, had the ability to restore 20 health points per second. He remembered that the fight would drag on, requiring patience, strategy, and resilience. The serpent, meanwhile, was making even further moves to hinder him. It remained motionless for a moment, then unleashed multiple counterattacks. Its tail swung wildly, forcing him to dodge repeatedly. Even with its intelligence, the serpent seemed to be underestimating San Chin's speed and agility. Confident, he lined up another arrow aimed precisely at the creature's neck. The shot was a critical hit, dealing 200 points of damage, which struck him as odd because he observed that the damage appeared even greater when hitting the serpent's belly, a surprisingly vulnerable spot despite the neck being its usual weak point. He prepared another shot, contemplating whether to aim at the belly again to cause more rapid death. However, an unusual feeling crept over him. The serpent appeared to be smiling at him, an unsettling expression that betrayed a deeper intelligence. Suddenly, the beast struck the ground with a resounding noise, and a crack ran ominously across the terrain toward him. The ground beneath his feet became unstable, and the serpent's form seemed to ripple, as though preparing something devastating. At that moment, the venom's effects intensified. The poison seemed to surge, draining 20 health points per second instead of 10. His health was dwindling rapidly. The creature's large body loomed above, and its behavior suggested it was not going to give up easily. He was forced to quickly dodge multiple sweeping tail attacks, each one capable of crushing him if he failed to avoid them. He knew that the serpent's tactical maneuvers indicated it was still underestimating his speed. Another arrow shot from his bow, this time a precise, critical strike aimed at the vulnerable spots he had identified. The damage numbers soared, and he witnessed a curious phenomenon. The damage dealt was even higher when it hit the serpent's belly. The neck remained a reliable weak point for instant kills, but the belly seemed to be fragile as well, more prone to heavy damage when struck correctly. He took a breath, preparing himself for the next attack. The serpent, apparently sensing danger, reacted differently now. It shot a vicious glare at him and suddenly snapped its enormous jaws, an attack he narrowly dodged, feeling the rush of wind from its massive maw. The creature's behavior was unpredictable, relentless. It seemed as if it was mocking his efforts, underestimating his speed and skill. Despite the serpent's apparent surprise at his resilience, it still pressed its assault, unleashing a barrage of ineffective strikes as San Chin continued to chip away at its health. The fight stretched on, with each strike, each dodge, and each calculated shot bringing him closer to victory or defeat. Several more arrows flew, each aimed at exploiting the creature's greatest vulnerabilities, dealing critical damage and slowly turning the tide in his favor. The beast's health continued to drop, and with each hit, San Chin's confidence grew. Yet, he remained wary of the creature's lethal counterattacks and cunning strategies. The scenario was escalating into a true test of his combat skills, patience, and strategic thinking, something only a formidable foe like the King of Serpents could provide. As the battle raged on, the terrain continued to falter, the poison's hold tightens, and only the most resourceful and determined would emerge victorious from this deadly confrontation. For a span of 20 seconds, the situation hung precariously in the balance. Although this window of time was insufficient for victory, it provided just enough opportunity for him to inch closer to the summit. The subsequent 20 seconds would determine whether he emerged victorious or fell short. In this critical interval, he adopted a daring parkour-style approach, leaping from ledge to ledge, navigating the treacherous terrain with calculated agility. With relentless determination, he pushed forward, gradually ascending to a position perched above his formidable foe. From this vantage point, he drew his bow with practiced finesse, releasing an arrow aimed at the serpent's head. The projectile found its mark, embedding itself deep within the beast's thick flesh. The serpent, sensing the threat, thrashed wildly, its rage evident in the flickering of its eyes. It appeared utterly furious, as if caught off guard by his survival and persistence. The arrow struck the serpent's eye, causing the creature to convulse violently. Blood and venom mingled as the monster writhed in pain, finally collapsing onto the ground in defeat. The leader's gaze, however, did not waver. He observed as the serpent attempted to retreat once again. Seizing the moment, he exploited the monster's exposed back and launched a second arrow directed at its vulnerable nape. The creature spun around, terror in its movements, just in time to witness the archer preparing another elven-crafted arrow. The beast's fear heightened as it realized its opponent's relentless intent. Its trembling form attempted to retreat further, but the leader pressed his advantage, firing arrow after arrow. The final shot was decisive. It pierced the beast's body, inflicting a damage of 200 points before emerging victoriously through its mouth. With the creature's demise, the venom's toxic influence dispersed into the air, dissipating as the serpent's body went still. The system announced that his achievement would be broadcast to the entire server, prompting a prompt asking whether he wished to conceal his identity. San Chin pondered this option but decided he had concealed himself for too long already. He instructed the system to make the announcement official, then silently congratulated himself on becoming the first player to defeat the boss at the zone's starting point. In the nearby village of novice players, confusion reigned. The inhabitants couldn't comprehend how such a feat had been accomplished minutes after the game's launch. Some wondered aloud about what strategies might have been employed, while others speculated whether the boss was an ordinary creature or an especially powerful one. Meanwhile, other groups began to blame themselves for their sluggish response, lamenting their slow reactions during the initial chaos. Veteran players from other games struggled to grasp how this was even feasible. They knew, from experience, that such early encounters typically posed little threat or were designed as straightforward tutorials. Yet, here was a newcomer demonstrating exceptional skill, defeating a beast many would consider a boss several levels above his own. Back with his blue-haired team, exhaustion was evident among the members. The group had managed to kill a buffalo, a feat that, while impressive, left them questioning whether they had encountered a rare, high-level monster or a hidden superboss. The chubby boy among them was particularly excited, eager to see what reward awaited the first team to clear the initial dungeon. His eyes shone with anticipation, imagining the treasures and experience points he and his friends would receive. Meanwhile, the other two boys blushed with nervous excitement, their hearts pounding at the thought of impressing the girl they admired, an elegant sister figure whose approval they desperately sought. They hovered, silent but eager, as their minds spun with fantasies of admiration and reward. Suddenly, the system materialized before them, announcing that Cao Wan had scored 1,000 reputation points and received a silver chest. The two boys stared in disbelief. A stronger player had emerged, one who had defeated a boss several levels above himself. This revelation shattered their previous assumptions about power levels and progress, forcing them to reevaluate their understanding of the game's mechanics. Progressing swiftly, the protagonist gained extra experience by jumping directly from level 2 to level 4. When he did so, his attributes increased by 30 points, all allocated to agility. He had decided long ago that lacking proper legs hampered his speed, but now the decision to invest heavily in agility paid off. For a character wielding a bow, agility not only enhanced movement speed but also boosted damage output, making every shot more impactful. With his improved attributes, he eagerly examined the loot dropped by the defeated boss. An unexpected change occurred. The 10 silver coins, which he anticipated would be the standard loot, transformed into 10 gold coins. This was unusual, prompting him to wonder if the boss had possessed some hidden bonus or special attribute. Elsewhere, other players hunting buffalo earned merely a single copper coin for their efforts. In his inventory, one object radiated an intense golden glow. It caught his attention immediately, suggesting a potential second evolution or a rare upgrade. But on closer inspection, he realized it was a rare crystal coin, an extinct form of currency from a bygone era, with only a few remaining in circulation. He'd heard legends of this coin in his previous life. It was used by certain traders to purchase mysterious items from obscure NPCs. Despite knowing its history, he had never encountered one firsthand. Now he held one in his possession, its brilliance shimmering brightly. Gathering the other loot, the system automatically collected the remaining items into his backpack. Among them, there was a silver-ranked serpent sword. Its value was limited for an archer, but it could fetch a modest sum. More useful, however, was a piece of silver-scaled armor that granted a shield absorbing 300 HP. The armor had a cooldown period of 5 minutes, preventing immediate reuse. Generally, this armor lacked special effects. Its passive ability was most likely influencing its defensive stats. However, it required the wearer to be at least level 10, which was a challenge for the current stage. Remembering that the system rewarded him with a silver reputation chest as part of his accomplishments, he requested to open it immediately, praying it wouldn't contain an item meant for a different class. When he opened the chest, he received a legendary skill called the 7 Arrows Rain. This technique permitted a powerful aerial attack, perfect for him as an archer. Yet, it could only be used once he reached level 10, which disappointed him slightly. Still, he was excited about the prospect. Once he attained that level, he would become exponentially stronger. During this moment of anticipation, a call for help echoed from within the nearby cave. Curious, he approached to find a young woman, appearing healthy and alert, seeking rescue. She explained she had hidden herself inside the cavern to escape a gigantic serpent that had plagued the area. Her name was Miss Ju, an NPC known for assigning secret missions. He listened carefully as she described the serpent, noting that it had already been defeated, allowing her to emerge safely. But as she spoke, she revealed her injured foot, touching her mouth with a faint expression of worry. She asked whether he could carry her, her voice trembling slightly. One might have expected Sen Chin to be cold and calculating, a typical protagonist driven solely by pragmatism. but instead he blushed, an innocent, almost foolish reaction, and instantly bent down to help her out of the cave. Once outside, she gently touched his face with a soft hand, thanking him for saving her life. She whispered that she would care for him better the next time they met. He froze at her words, asking, "Next time? What do you mean by that?" His voice was tinged with confusion. Before she could answer, she suddenly laughed, a playful look in her eyes, and teased him about her offering him her body as a reward. He immediately stepped back, raising his hand to stop her. "Stop," he muttered firmly. "That's not what I want." She chuckled, claiming he seemed to understand her hidden purpose all along, and then withdrew a bronze dagger from her bag, an artifact from the mountains, and presented it as her prize. He pushed her hand away swiftly, determined not to be swayed by mere material offerings. Fixating his gaze on her, he demanded to know the secret she was hiding. She blinked, surprised, then hesitantly explained that she yearned to undertake a special mission, to rescue a young girl of about 14 living nearby. She couldn't believe he already knew about the mission, her real task, and was somewhat taken aback. But she nodded, conceding that if that was truly his desire, she would assign him the secret assignment. Calmly, she stood, preparing to leave. Meanwhile, he remained standing in place, arms crossed, pondering her words. Why was she so serious about this mission? And why did she seem to trust him so readily? Suddenly, she launched into a strange dance. It was a performance so bizarre and provocative, it was prohibited in over 27 countries. She moved her left foot to the side, swayed her hips to the right, an intricate rhythmic step that defied normality. His eyes widened, perplexed yet fascinated by the unorthodox display. The dance continued, each move more bizarre than the last. It was an unconventional display of confidence, perhaps frustration, or maybe just her way of emphasizing the importance of the task ahead. Whatever her intentions, it left him pondering the peculiarities of her character. An NPC with a secret mission, performing a dance forbidden in many lands. The entire scene was surreal, blending humor with tension. As he watched her perform her unorthodox routine, wondering what the next step would be, the sense of mystery surrounding her only deepened, promising that more surprises lay ahead in this unfolding adventure. In the heart of a seemingly endless expanse, amidst whirling sands that stretched beyond the horizon, a lone figure found himself trapped in a realm as treacherous as it was mysterious. His name was San Chin, a seasoned adventurer whose reputation for bravery and cunning had earned him numerous victories across countless battles. Yet today, within this vast desert, he confronted a challenge that distinctively tested the limits of his skill and wit. It was a place where danger lurked behind every grain of sand, and where the line between life and death blurred with each passing moment. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a shimmering arcane circle materialized beneath his feet. The glow was faint at first, subtle as a whisper in the wind, but it quickly intensified, casting an eerie light across the desert floor. From this mystical portal emerged a formidable figure, an enigmatic woman cloaked in dark robes, her eyes piercing with a mixture of wisdom and menace. Her presence was both unsettling and commanding, a reminder that he was now entangled in a scenario far more complex than a simple survival ordeal. She spoke with a voice that vibrated with authority, warning him that the test for the clandestine class was about to commence. To succeed, he had to surmount a series of perilous trials designed specifically to challenge his limits. Although grateful for the warning, San Chin noticed her smile, sinister and devoid of warmth, and sensed that her intentions went beyond mere guidance. Her words carried an undertone of anticipation, as if she relished the prospect of witnessing his failure. The woman's words echoed lingering in his mind as she warned that he must pass the upcoming challenge to earn access to the secret knowledge he sought. Meanwhile, the system's interface flickered into view, a transparent overlay displaying his current status, objectives, and crucially, the difficulty level marked in bright red. He was immediately struck by the gravity of the situation. A critical mission flagged as near impossible. A single mistake, the system declared, would lead to permanent disqualification, stripping him of all progress without chance of reprieve. His heart pounded as he shouted, desperately pleading for her to stop, emphasizing, begging, that he was only at level 7, nowhere near prepared to face such a daunting task. Yet her smile grew even more unsettling. She leaned closer and whispered with a chilling tone, "This is your end," sealing her words with an ominous promise that, from this moment, his favorability with her, an essential component for success, had plummeted to zero. Realization dawned suddenly. The approach must have been backwards. The correct method to initiate this quest was to increase his rapport with her first. Only then could he have the chance to succeed. Her forced early trial had been a trap, a way to eliminate those naive enough to rush into danger unprepared. As he watched her retreating figure vanish into the shifting sands, she wished him luck, a gesture that felt more like a curse. Doubts clouded his mind about his ability to prevail, given his current skills and experience. Still, with unwavering resolve, Sun Qin vowed that once he escaped this deadly trial, he would find her and her daughter, who might be unwittingly caught in this web, and eliminate both to end their threat once and for all. Suddenly, the arcane circle flared anew, this time shimmering ominously in the sky above another distant point. Without warning, a blinding flash of light enveloped the landscape, and he was transported instantly to a new, jarring environment. A desolate desert stretching as far as the eye could see, devoid of life and recognitions. The system's voice resonated in his mind, announcing the start of the challenge anew. He was given a single opportunity to succeed. With his heart pounding with renewed urgency, San Qin understood that he must give everything he had. The moment was critical. As he scanned his surroundings, he caught sight of strange structures rising from the sands, formations resembling jagged teeth emerging from the sand, menacing and sharp. There was no time for hesitation. He saw for more similar formations encircling him, forming a perilous trap. Before he could react, a giant creature erupted from beneath the sands, attempting to swallow him whole. Instinctively, San Qin activated his weak point detection ability. A target indicator flashed directly in the center of the creature's gaping maw, a level 5 elite sandworm, dubbed easy by his assessment, despite its formidable appearance. It boasted roughly 2,000 hit points, a significant challenge considering his current level was only 7. Still, the enormous health bar signaled that perseverance could achieve victory. He quickly nocked an arrow and shot, inflicting 130 damage points into the creature's open mouth just as it surged upward, trying to bite him. The creature's movement was sluggish outside of the sand, giving him an advantage. Its massive body lifted high into the air, aiming a retributive attack. San Qin rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding its strike, and the beast crashed into the ground with a thunderous impact, sending clouds of dust flying. The spectacle confirmed what he already suspected. Being caught underneath the sand meant death, burial beneath the relentless dunes forever. More grains of sand shifted and moved near the creature as it began to retreat. Its emergence slowed, and San Qin realized that he needed higher ground for better analysis and attack. Spotting a tall, sturdy pillar in the distance, he sprinted towards it, closing the gap between him and his vantage point. Just as he reached the base of the pillar, a slight tremor signaled danger. Something was emerging again. Out of the ground, a second sandworm pushed upward, constantly anticipating his movement. San Qin, quick to react, evaded backward just in time. From behind the pillar, he fired 2 more arrows, dealing 260 and 130 damage respectively, and watched as the monster responded with an unpleasant display of saliva and sand. Its grotesque mouth twitched open, spewing a stream of gritty debris, but he focused on his strategy. The creature attempted to spit again, but this time, San Qin clung to his cover, firmly holding onto the pillar, dodging at the last second. He let loose another arrow, a clean shot delivering 260 damage, forcing the beast to halt briefly. In a hushed moment of focus, he pondered whether the worm's attack pattern was limited. If so, he could capitalize. 2 swift patterns emerged. The monster lunged and exhaled a cloud of sand, then reared back for another attack. Recognizing the pattern, San Chin dove directly into the creature's mouth, slipping past its defenses in a daring move. He fired 3 arrows in rapid succession, each aimed precisely at critical points, culminating in a final, decisive shot that dealt 130 damage, killing the enormous sandworm. His victory granted him a level increase, 2nd level, reaching level 8, and a modest reward, 10 silver coins and a pair of desert boots that increased his movement speed on the sands. Yet, reviewing the loot afterward, he found the rewards to be unimpressive. How could a colossal creature of this magnitude yield such trivial items? He suspected it was a pattern. Small monsters or creatures could be triggered to appear by the coins he obtained, a strategy to farm rewards efficiently. As soon as a coin dropped into the sands, another tiny sandworm burst forth, eager to attack. Preparing for this, San Chin activated a passive skill that made such encounters more lucrative. Smiling at the prospect, he observed the little worm, ready to face another round. Less than an hour later, after relentless fighting and careful maneuvering, San Chin had defeated multiple worms, gradually clearing the area and advancing towards higher levels. Eventually, he reached the 10th level, the ultimate milestone he had been striving for, with 15 points available for allocation. He paused, contemplating what to improve, aware that his luck stat was still at 0. This realization prompted him to consider investing points in luck, especially since he had been fortunate before with rare drops. In his previous life, he was quite weak and had focused solely on increasing his strength and health to compensate. Now, with a fresh perspective, he decided to experiment with the new level 10 skill he had unlocked, a powerful attack directed at the corpse of a defeated creature. The impact was impressive, and he watched as a purple glow emanated from the corpse, signaling the possibility of a legendary item. This new skill, dubbed Escape in Sand, allowed him to transform into a rolling ball that would move swiftly across the desert terrain. Its main limitation was that it only functioned within desert environments, but the potential benefits far outweighed the drawbacks. Recognizing its rarity, San Chin equipped himself with a set of silver-scaled armor, the spoils of a high-level serpent boss, confident that he was now among the strongest players in the entire server. Suddenly, amidst the shimmering desert landscape, the entire structure of the pillar beneath him pulsed with a strange light. Intrigued, he wondered why nothing was happening. Just as those thoughts crossed his mind, the ground beneath the pillar trembled violently. With a rending crack, the pillar split open, revealing a hidden passage, a secret door concealed within the ancient structure. A narrow staircase emerged, beckoning upward into darkness. San Chin stared at the newly revealed path, knowing that the real reward lay beyond the hidden door. This moment was an unrivaled opportunity to test his advanced equipment and skills, to push forward into new and even more perilous challenges, and to unlock secrets that had remained hidden for ages. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, and prepared to ascend the mysterious staircase, fully aware that with every step upward, he moved closer to greater power, greater danger, and perhaps the ultimate prize waiting in the shadows beyond. In the dim glow of his gaming room, San Chin was immersed in an intense virtual battle. Every moment was fraught with tension as he navigated through treacherous terrains, fighting against relentless foes. Just then, his sister's voice interrupted the immersion, calling him from downstairs, reminding him it was time for dinner. She had prepared her favorite meal, fried rice with egg, and was eager for him to come down. San Chin recognized her voice instantly, as it echoed through his augmented reality headset that seamlessly blended the digital and real worlds. Her words were crystal clear, despite the chaos of his game. Though absorbed in his virtual quest, he could still hear her, thanks to the headset's advanced mixed reality capabilities. She called out again, urging him to leave the game before he hurt himself or strained his eyes. A system prompt appeared, asking if he wished to exit the current session. He declined, muttering that he couldn't leave right now, as he was on the verge of claiming a crucial reward. His gaze instinctively shifted upward, toward the top of his screen, where the digital indicator of his progress flickered. Frustrated by the constant interruptions, he told his sister to stop bothering him, saying he was in the middle of an important game. She pouted, expressing her displeasure. She'd been playing for over 8 hours straight, with no rest. Sun Qin told her to behave and stop distracting him, but she only replied that she didn't care anymore. As she walked away, her footsteps fading into the background, she wondered how she could make her brother feel better within the game world. She knew that he was striving for something greater, something that would change his destiny, and she hoped her brother would find the strength he needed. In a hushed voice, San Qin murmured a quiet apology to her, knowing that for now he had to focus. He had to become stronger to alter the course of his future. Steeling himself, he moved toward a glowing portal in his virtual landscape. Declaring that it was time to unlock a new class, a bright blue light enveloped his face. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself transported into a dark, foreboding cavern. The system immediately issued a warning, alerting him to the extreme danger of this area. It advised caution, emphasizing that this was an immensely perilous location. San Qin instantly deduced that he was in the boss chamber. The ominous stillness was broken as a massive creature stirred in front of him, slowly rising from the shadows. San Qin's eyes widened in disbelief at the grotesque monstrosity now towering before him. The creature was a boss rated as a golden rank, the Desert King. Its presence was formidable. It boasted a staggering 200 attack points and 6,000 health points. San Qin remained stunned by its incredible resilience. Without wasting a moment, he activated the weakness detection skill, hoping to find an exploitable flaw. Yet, the system's analysis returned no indicators of vulnerabilities before the beast launched its attack. Reacting swiftly, San Qin dodged an initial strike, but the impact still sent him crashing into the cavern wall, dealing 100 points of damage. The attack had been indirect, and yet, its force was enough to leave him dazed. It was no surprise that such a boss was rated as gold. Merely sidestepping its stomps would be insufficient. He launched his first arrow, but it barely scratched the creature, inflicting a mere 1 point of damage. This was because its defenses were so high that they effectively negated most of his attack power. The Desert King retaliated once more, charging forward with another devastating attack. Sensing his danger, San Qin relied on his agility to create space before another strike could land. But before he could truly escape, another attack loomed. Realizing that evasion alone would not suffice in this situation, San Qin leapt into the air, grabbing onto one of the creature's massive limbs. The beast throws violently, swinging him away and tossing him into the air. While airborne, San Qin noticed an opening. With quick reflexes, he activated his new ability, the 7 Arrows Rain, and unleashed a flurry of projectiles at the boss. Each arrow inflicted 1% of the boss's maximum health points and penetrated defenses, ignoring its armor. The attack reduced the Desert King's health from 6,000 to 5,100 points in a single burst. However, the monster was not defenseless. It retaliated immediately. Despite dodging the attack, San Qin felt a crushing blow that shattered part of his armor. His realization dawned. This encounter was unsustainable if he did not adapt his strategy. He began to climb the creature's limb, ascending toward its head, trying to buy himself time to regenerate mana for another attack. Meanwhile, the boss suddenly jumped toward the ceiling of the cavern, preparing to crush him. Forced to retreat, San Qin fell to the ground as debris from the collapsing cavern rained down. In that moment, a sinister glow appeared in the boss's eyes, a purple hue that was rarely seen. The system announced that a weakness had been detected and marked on the creature. A close inspection revealed an indicator pointing to its abdomen. Now it made perfect sense why the weakness detection had failed earlier. The only vulnerable point was located beneath its belly. Equipped with this knowledge, San Qin could now target a strategic spot. The system issued a warning. The boss was about to unleash its ultimate ability. This move would deal 100 damage per second and restrict movement for a full 60 seconds. San Qin's heart pounded in panic at the impending devastation. He saw several tornadoes swirling around him, threatening to strip away his health and banish him from the fight altogether. He wondered why a boss from the beginner zone possessed such disproportionately powerful abilities. The damage was enormous, and the attack duration was absurdly long. The intense pressure made it almost impossible to move his legs. A single magic touch drained 100 health points from him instantly, and he knew he couldn't hold out much longer. In seconds, his health plummeted by 400 points. There was no hope of counterattack while he was trapped in the tornadoes. Desperately, he risked firing another arrow, this time dealing 260 damage. He cursed the monster for its convenience, watching as the tornadoes closed in. The creature's gaze fixed on him, and his health continued to decrease as the chaos raged around him until suddenly everything stopped. It seemed as if the tornadoes had vanished, but in reality, the boss had used a quick escape skill, burrowing underground at the moment it lowered its guard. Seizing the opportunity, San Chin launched a precise shot, an arrow aimed directly at the creature's underbelly. The attack dealt 300 damage, and he knew that for the first time he had a real chance. The boss descended to the ground, attempting to crush him, but San Chin evaded once again, disappearing into the earth and reappearing on the other side. With a smirk, he greeted the beast sarcastically. The creature struck again, yet now San Chin felt a newfound confidence. He understood that this legendary skill, marvelously efficient, nearly mana-free with no cooldown, was the key to overcoming his formidable opponent. Suddenly, the boss spoke, startling him. The creature called him an idiot. San Chin froze in disbelief. Could this monster actually talk? The days of assuming it was just a mindless beast suddenly felt less certain. Hours later, San Chin found himself with a remaining health pool of 720 points. The battle had dragged on far longer than he had anticipated. Yet, his 7 arrows reign was ready again. The boss's health stood at 1,160 from the previous assault. San Chin declared that it was time to end the confrontation once and for all. To his surprise, the number of the boss's remaining health points was dropping rapidly, and gradually, the creature's resistance waned. Finally, the boss's health dropped to 0. Because he had defeated a monster several levels above his current strength, his experience points surged. The system announced that he qualified for an immediate class change and inquired whether he wanted to proceed. Overcome with the exhilaration of victory, San Chin quickly nodded in agreement. The rewards for such a hard-fought victory promised incredible growth, and he was eager to see what new opportunities awaited him. Darkness now envelopes the surroundings as the elven spirit begins to shift and transform into a new form. Its class changes to Shadow Hunter, a title that brings increased vitality, attack power, and bonus attributes. The level-up system reflects this shift. Each new level grants the character 7 points instead of the usual 5. Additionally, 2 new skills become available. One allows summoning a ghost for 30 seconds to aid in combat, and the other deploys a bear trap that deals double damage upon activation. While these skills appear simple at first glance, their strategic application aligns perfectly with the character's combat style. Chin, the protagonist, is particularly eager to leverage his ability to evolve into his new class. However, the cooldown period remains a formidable 5 hours, a frustrating barrier despite his excitement. His passive evolution skill has already accumulated a bounty of rewards from defeated bosses, promising a promising future. By investing points into his luck attribute, he notices tangible gains. He now possesses 43 gold coins, a small fortune for a beginner, along with a variety of valuable equipment. Among his acquisitions is a piercing bow, which reduces enemy defense with each successive attack, stacking up to 5 times. There's a pair of universal gloves boosting agility by 7 points, a gleaming golden sword that increases attack power by 30%, and a rare item he cannot equip but can sell for a high price. A valuable necklace that restores health outside of combat, with 21 recovery points. He distributes all these points into his agility attribute, eager to see how much progress he's made. Upon inspecting his status window, a wave of satisfaction sweeps over him. His growth feels substantial, and his anticipation for the future intensifies. Yet before he can indulge further in his progress, a system notification appears abruptly. You have been in the game for 15 hours. Your session will be forcibly terminated now. The warning leaves him momentarily stunned, but as he processes the message, It abruptly ejects him from the game environment. He awakens back inside the hospital's medical capsule, frustration brewing within him. Despite the game being designed for adults with systems in place to combat addiction, he recognizes that everyone must abide by the same rules. The development progress remains steady, and he knows that his quest for revenge against Chao Tianai is only just beginning. He turns his attention to his sister, who is peacefully asleep in the hospital room. She looks exhausted from taking care of him, her tired face softened by concern. The aroma of food drifting in from the cafeteria reminds him of the fried rice with egg she prepared earlier. San-Chin recognizes that his sister was raised in comfort, never having to lift a finger herself. Her constant support is a significant effort, and he feels a surge of gratitude toward her. As he takes his first bite of food, his expression darkens suddenly. It tastes terrible, like someone splashed an entire jar of salt into it. The saltiness is overwhelming, making him grimace. Abruptly, she wakes, happy to see that he has paused his gaming session. She comments joyfully that he finally took a break, and he mumbles an apology for waking her up. Embarrassed, he asks her what she thinks of the meal, trying to hold back tears as he admits it's incredible. The fresh ingredients really shine, and the dish is delicious. His sister insists he eat it all since he must be hungry after a long day of gaming. San-Chin hesitates, staring at the steaming bowl, which radiates a mischievous aura. It's almost as if the dish is imbued with a malicious intent, but he would do anything to make his sister happy. If only the doctor could win him over, he'd live a life of luxury, he muses quietly. He then remarks that he feels a little guilty, attributing his obsession with video games to a side effect of excessive gaming. His smile strangely sweet yet unsettling. The doctor reassures him that if he needs anything, he only has to call her, promising to do everything possible to help him feel better. San-Chin, uninterested in further interaction, simply asks her to push his wheelchair back to his game station. The doctor looks at him with confusion, questioning whether her charms had any effect after all. Perhaps her makeup that day had failed to manipulate him. She wonders quietly. But San-Chin ignores her completely and re-enters the game. As the character appears on his screen, his eyes snap open. He is transported once again into chaos. It's only the second day of the game world's existence. Yet the number of players has already surged past 300,000. San-Chin's gaming setup is ultramodern and expensive, but the game is also accessible via more affordable virtual reality devices. In less than a month, the player count is projected to surpass 100 million, a staggering figure. At present, his equipment is still limited, but at least he holds a new high-tier bow in his hands. The objective for the day is clear: acquire high-quality gear. Such a goal can only be achieved by fighting powerful bosses of level 20, an endeavor that demands strength and strategy. He enters a shop, where the shopkeeper immediately notices something unusual. An armor plated in silver, something he has never seen before. The shopkeeper asks politely what he wants, and Chin, with humility, responds that everything displayed is mere bronze rubbish. Turning toward the counter, he states that he wishes to acquire the treasures of the shop. The shopkeeper attempts to explain that the items on display are all they currently have for sale, and they do not possess any true treasures. He continues, explaining that even if they did, San-Chin wouldn't have the necessary funds to purchase such rare items. At that moment, San-Chin takes out a handful of crystal coins and asks for the shopkeeper's opinion of these. The man's attitude shifts instantly. He gains 70 points of favorability and exclaims that he hadn't realized San-Chin was such an impressive person. The shopkeeper extends his hand, and a golden light blinds everyone in the shop, revealing the legendary treasures. The man admits that these rare objects are not supposed to be available for sale for another 30 days. However, San-Chin, undeterred, looks at the treasures with a calculating gaze. His eyes settle on a single item, the mask. He calls out to the shopkeeper, expressing his desire to buy that mask. The shopkeeper praises his sharp eye, explaining that the mask is the only item of its kind in the entire game and is classified as a gold-grade item. Since San-Chin had traded in a crystal coin of exceptional value, he offers to sell it for just 150,000 gold coins. Without hesitation, Sun Chin pays immediately and receives the mask. The shopkeeper is stunned. He is confused because San Chin has just spent an amount equivalent to a year's salary for a comfortably well-off individual. However, the young man doesn't care. San Chin simply states that he will take the item. As the transaction concludes, the shopkeeper mutters that a customer of the second tier can do whatever they want outside the shop. San Chin, gearing up with the new mask, activates its effects instantly, feeling a surge of power. The mask enhances numerous attributes significantly and also inflicts fear status on monsters and players of level 20 and above. With this new equipment, Sun Chin prepares himself for the battles ahead, confident that he's taken a crucial step toward his ultimate goal. In the faint, early morning light, the town street buzzed softly with activity. Shadows stretched long across the cobblestones as scattered figures moved about, their eyes occasionally drawn upward by the gleam of something unfamiliar. Among the crowd, a young man named San Chin journeyed purposefully, his gaze fixed ahead. He was known for his unwavering determination and uncanny skills within the virtual realm, factors that had elevated him to a notable reputation among gamers. Today, he was eager to continue his quest, seeking new challenges that would sharpen his edge in the game world. As San Chin ambled through the bustling streets, a curious sight caught his attention. A peculiar figure, silhouetted against the rising sun, was walking ahead of him, clad in a broad-brimmed hat that cast a shadow over his face. This player exuded an aura of confidence. His armor shimmered faintly under the early light, hinting at a rare item of remarkable value. From a distance, Sun Chin could see that the stranger's attire included what appeared to be a crown or a similar regal ornament. But what truly drew attention was the unusual gleam of a golden object hanging from his neck, a treasure of immense worth in this virtual universe. A small group of players gathered around, their voices murmuring in awe as they pointed at the mysterious figure. Several muttered about the object's authenticity, some claiming that with a level of skill, a person could acquire such an impressive artifact only through extraordinary effort. One player, sporting a wide-brimmed hat similar to the enigmatic figures, gestured dismissively. "There's no way that's real," he declared confidently. "It must be a forgery. Or perhaps, San Chin is cheating." His words carried a mix of admiration and suspicion, revealing either envy or outright disbelief. Suddenly, a hand clapped lightly on San Chin's shoulder, startling him. He turned to face a man whose face was marked by a strong jawline, sharp and unwavering in expression. The stranger's voice was quick, yet measured. "Hold on for a moment," he said. His words carried a tone of authority, positioning himself as someone not to be ignored. Sun Chin looked at him curiously, the mask of calm on his face unwavering. The man continued, "Your items, Sun Chin, they look impressive. You should consider sharing them with your friends." His tone was less of a request and more of a veiled demand. San Chin frowned, confusion clouding his expression. "What are you talking about?" he asked sharply, his eyes narrowing. Around them, other players chuckled, some whispering among themselves, intrigued by the scene unfolding. With a sudden change of mood, Sun Chin's expression hardened. His eyes flashed with suspicion as he demanded, "Why should I give away my possessions to you?" The man, unshaken, leaned slightly forward and proclaimed, "In this game, acquiring such rare items early depends on one thing: cheating. And if you refuse to part with what's yours, you'll be penalized. Your resources will be confiscated, and you'll lose everything." His voice carried a promise of punishment, revealing a dangerous knowledge of the game's mechanics. A tense silence fell over the gathering. The crowd's murmur increased, and soon, a small mob had begun to form. Curious onlookers, attracted by the confrontation, started to gather around, murmuring among themselves about right and wrong, about rules and breaches. Amidst this chaos, one of the players in the crowd raised his arm high, shouting, "Let's teach this cheater a lesson." His voice rang out loud, fiery with conviction. The crowd erupted in agreement, their voices rising together in chorus. "Yeah, cover him with a lesson," they shouted, some clapping and others stomping their feet in rhythm. The square was quickly filled with a cacophony of voices demanding justice. The man with the square jaw warned Sen-Chin again. "You know what's good for you. Hand over those items or I'll make sure you're killed repeatedly every time you respawn. That will teach you humility." His tone was menacing, and his words carried an air of authority that brooked no argument. Sen-Chin, unflinching, looked at his would-be aggressor and simply replied, "People who are envious are the same everywhere." His voice was calm but firm, laced with a quiet confidence. He observed the gathered crowd, noticing their levels, none above level 5. He saw an opportunity to test their courage. Turning slightly, he challenged them. "All three of you can try to attack me at once if you dare." Without hesitation, the three players charged forward, their weapons glinting. They attacked simultaneously, an aggressive, reckless move designed to intimidate. Sen-Chin seized the moment, immediately activating the effect of his mysterious mask. In a flash, a giant tiger apparition materialized around him, emanating a fearsome and commanding presence. The beast roared loudly, its spectral claws slashing toward the attackers. The three enemies froze in terror, their bodies trembling as overwhelming fear overwhelmed them. One of the knights, struck by the force of fear, coughed up blood, falling to his knees as his vision blurred. The entire scene was surreal. Spectators struggled to comprehend what had just transpired. The air was thick with confusion and awe. Sen-Chin's smile was faint but genuine as he turned to the onlookers, posing a quiet question. "Now, have you heard about that secret dungeon you were discussing?" His tone was casual, but beneath it lay a confidence that left no doubt about his capabilities. The stranger behind him, an individual who had introduced himself as Cao Wei-Wan, stepped forward. He was a modest man, yet there was a sense of calm authority about him. He bowed politely and announced, "My name is Cao Wei-Wan. If you wish to confront me, feel free to come any time." His tone implied neither arrogance nor bravado, but a quiet confidence forged through experience. Despite his humble words, Cao Wei-Wan moved away without causing any further trouble for the trio of opponents who had momentarily faltered. He genuinely appeared to be a kind person, someone whose actions did not suggest malicious intent. However, the crowd, sensing something unusual about him, decided to verify his background. Several players pulled out their devices to check rankings. It wasn't long before they discovered that Cao Wei-Wan held the top spot, number 1 in the rankings, at a level surpassing that of most other players. He had already reached the substantial milestone of level 13, an impressive feat in this game, while the closest competitor was only at level 8. Everyone briefly exchanged surprised glances. It was a relief. No one wanted to risk tangling with such a powerful individual. The realization served as a reminder of Sen-Chin's own strength and the importance of strategic caution. Meanwhile, the man with the square jaw, having realized he'd been humiliated, collapsed to the ground, his dignity shattered. He muttered quietly, acknowledging that he had recklessly provoked the game's number 1 player and now paid the price. Later, Sen-Chin made his way to a cluster of wooden cabins nestled within the dense forest. His mission was not yet complete. Before engaging in further pursuits, he knew there was something vital he needed to do. In the shadows of a small clearing, he found a girl NPC, stressed and exhausted, lying on the ground. Her delicate frame was trembling, her breathing shallow. He crouched beside her and gently called out, "Kid, do you know where Lady Go is?" His tone was soft but persistent. The girl, who appeared perplexed and worn out, looked up at him. She quickly dismissed the notion of being a child. "I'm not a girl," she retorted, her tone annoyed. "And I'm not much older than you. Stop calling me that." Her sassy attitude made it clear she was no ordinary NPC. She was fiercely self-aware. Sen-Chin frowned slightly, studying her face carefully. "Are you Linger, Lady G's daughter?" he asked directly. His tone was serious, expecting an answer that might unlock a secret. The girl, confused, asked, "How do you know my name? Who are you?" Her eyes sharpened as she eyed him suspiciously, sensing something unusual about his demeanor. San-Chin remained composed. My mother once promised she would marry me in 5 years. I've come to find her, he explained simply, a hint of sincerity in his voice. The girl, known as Linger, was stunned. Her confusion deepened, and she burst into tears, running away while crying out that she would tell her mother, Lady Gu, that this stranger was acting strangely. Lady Gu, the village head, watched the scene with quiet concern. She was a formidable woman, her appearance both beautiful and intimidating. Her eyes sparkled with intelligence, yet an unshakable aura of authority emanated from her slender figure. She was well aware of the strange aura trailing San-Chin, something that set him apart from typical players. Who is that person? She wondered aloud, stepping closer as her curiosity grew. Her voice was calm but commanding. San-Chin approached her confidently, unafraid of her imposing presence. I want the map of the level moderate dungeon, he stated plainly, without beating around the bush. Lady Gu, crossing her arms, looked at him skeptically. You need to wake up and face reality. With your current level, which is 13, you stand no chance of reaching that dungeon. You should return once you've advanced to at least level 20, she advised, her tone firm yet with a hint of concern. In a quiet, remote village nestled between dense forests and rugged mountain ranges, life followed a rhythm as ancient as the earth itself. The villagers believed fervently in the harmony of nature and the importance of balance, and at the heart of their community was a small, humble leadership, embodied by a figure both revered and mysterious. This leader, known as the head of the village, possessed a unique sense of justice that defined her actions and decisions. Her personality combined firmness with compassion, leading her to bear the weight of countless responsibilities with unwavering dedication. One day, a young adventurer arrived on the outskirts of the village. His name was San-Chin, a spirited and ambitious explorer eager to prove his strength and skill. His reputation for courage was growing rapidly across regions, but he knew that true challenge lay ahead in the uncharted depths of the surrounding wilderness. As he approached the village, he was greeted by the village chief, a woman with sharp eyes that could pierce through any facade. She regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. San-Chin was quick to demonstrate his resolve. Without hesitation, he launched a crystal-like object into the air, hoping to impress his new acquaintances. The village leader observed calmly, her expression softening as she recognized his determination. With a dramatic flair reminiscent of legendary heroes, she adopted a pose reminiscent of a classic manga hero, standing tall and declaring herself a person of justice, a defender of fairness. Her stance was exaggerated, yet it conveyed her unwavering commitment to her principles. Her proclamation was met with a nod of acceptance from the villagers, who appreciated her sense of justice. Recognizing San-Chin's sincere heart, she made the bold decision to accept a mysterious crystal that he offered. The crystal shimmered with an otherworldly glow, symbolizing trust and goodwill. As she received it, she remarked that virtue was an essential trait for those who wished to wield such artifacts responsibly. However, a friend named Dinger, a more mischievous and outspoken member of the group, took a different stance. He challenged the village leader's kindness, suggesting that San-Chin's generous act should be rewarded with a tangible token. With a mischievous grin, Dinger flicked the crystal back to San-Chin, who caught it gracefully, amused by the subtle contest of wills. Nonetheless, San-Chin remained focused and requested the map leading to a medium-level dungeon, an adventure that promised peril but also great rewards. The village leader hesitated. She was well aware of the dangers lurking within that dungeon. She explained that entering such a place close to a person's current level was akin to courting death. For the safety and experience of the younger adventurers, she could not authorize access unless certain conditions were met. Her tone was firm, not unkind, emphasizing the risk involved. Not satisfied with her refusal, San-Chin pressed further. He asked what would happen if he attempted to test his strength against her directly, if a challenge of combat might prove his worth. The woman's expression did not change. She seemed unimpressed but thoughtful. She proposed a deal, a test of strength. If Sen Chin could demonstrate sufficient power, she would grant him access to the dungeon map. Intrigued, the young adventurer inquired about how such a test would be managed. The village leader explained that the village faced recurring threats in the form of wolf packs. Every year, these creatures besieged the outskirts, attacking the villagers' livestock and threatening their safety. Typically, the villagers' brave defenders, including experienced fighters and adventurers, went out to confront the wolves. Yet, the problem persisted. There was one beast that no one could bring down: the White Wolf King. No hunter had succeeded in killing this formidable creature, whose hide was rumored to possess extraordinary qualities. She further explained that if Sen Chin could eliminate the White Wolf King and bring back a specific trophy, its Aldo, the village would consider granting his request. The system, an ethereal interface that responded to her commands, appeared with a prompt. It warned that the challenge was classified as difficult, but Sen Chin accepted without hesitation. He stood confidently and announced that he would return victorious, urging her to prepare the necessary map. Before he could depart, Dinger, the mischievous companion, grabbed his hand insistently. He declared his desire to accompany Sen Chin, claiming he could protect him from any danger. Despite Sen Chin's inclination to dismiss his foolishness and tell him to go back home to his mother, the girl lingered nearby, expressing a strong determination to fight alongside him. She declared her intention to protect the village and to slay the White Wolf King. Sen Chin, exasperated, turned to the village chief and questioned whether she would control this crazy girl or not. Suddenly, the system announced an update to the quest, adding an unexpected condition. Now, Sen Chin's mission included a new objective: to protect Linger, the young girl who refused to be left behind. This revelation stunned him. He was frustrated that his mission had been altered by an unexpected rule. The girl clung to him with a fierce resolve, refusing to let go. He asked if she was a mere child, perhaps a mischievous spirit in disguise. She responded with antics, kicking, whining, and protesting that she didn't like adventures alone. Her attachment made Sen Chin hesitate, but as he looked at her earnest face, he knew he could not abandon her to her fate. Reluctantly, he agreed to the new condition, although he was clearly annoyed. Together, they set off into the forest, where shadows loomed thick and the silence was thick with anticipation. Linger, following close behind Sen Chin, clung to his back as they moved cautiously through the woods. The forest was unnervingly silent, save for the occasional crack of a twig underfoot. Suddenly, the tranquility was shattered. From behind a bush, a strange sound emerged: rustling leaves and low growls. Sen Chin instinctively moved to investigate, signalizing his readiness. Linger, trembling with fear, tried to stay close to him. They found themselves face to face with a group of adventurers, or rather, a band of battle-hardened explorers, engaged in an intense skirmish with wolves. This group of adventurers ranged from novice thrill-seekers to seasoned fighters, mostly level 5 to 7, each determined to hunt down the pack of wolves that threatened their territory. Their leader, a stern-looking warrior, held up his hand dismissively, refusing Sen Chin's inquiries. He snarled that they were hunting wolves within their domain and would not permit outsiders to intrude. When Sen Chin asked where their lair was, the leader pointed to a tattoo of a crimson serpent on his arm. He then boasted of belonging to what he claimed was the most powerful guild of the region, which he bizarrely called the Green Serpent Guild, contradicting the earlier mention of a red serpent insignia, adding to the confusion. Other members of the group made disparaging remarks about the surrounding area, claiming that even the Buffalo Plains belonged to them. They suggested that if Sen Chin wanted to farm or hunt in these lands, he would be forced to pay a toll or go back to kill chickens. Their attention briefly shifted to Linger, with one of the adventurers speculating if she was an NPC, an artificial entity, or perhaps a secret agent with a hidden mission. Sen Chin refused to dignify these assumptions or engage in their petty taunts. Instead, he coldly dismissed their remarks, noting that their methods of leveling up were inefficient and ineffective. Meanwhile, Linger continued hiding behind Sen Chin's cloak, visibly nervous. Suddenly, her eyes widened as she pointed toward the distance. She warned of approaching danger, her voice trembling. San Chin looked up and saw a shadowy silhouette emerging from behind the group, an ominous figure in the dark. A dark cloud seemed to gather behind the group, casting an eerie gloom. Before he could react, a liquid spurted from above, drenching Linger's head with a foul-smelling substance. Panicking, San Chin looked up and saw a massive wolf with piercing eyes and an open mouth, snarling terrifyingly. Just as he cried out, the beast lashed out, causing Linger to vanish in an instant, a blur of movement and magic, not even leaving behind her footprints. The nearby group of adventurers spun around, bewildered. Only her flying boots and the faint traces of her hurried escape remained. The chaos erupted as the wolf's howls echoed through the forest, and the beast reappeared, suddenly surging into the air, landing atop a nearby warrior, snarling furiously. The fight turned into a frantic melee. Wolves attacked from all directions, biting and clawing, bringing chaos and destruction. The group was overwhelmed, one by one falling amid the ferocious onslaught. In the midst of this violence, a towering figure emerged, a colossal white wolf king, level 20, with 4,000 hit points. Its presence was intimidating, and San Chin knew immediately that this adversary was no ordinary beast. He observed the creature's tactics, the way it moved cunningly, employing various tricks to deceive and trap its prey. San Chin initially attempted to test its speed with a carefully aimed arrow, preparing for an attack. But before he could act, a girl's voice echoed inside his mind, Linger's voice, warning him to hold back. She explained that engaging the White Wolf King directly at that moment would be disastrous. The beast was sensing danger, reacting to their presence, and would likely attack at close range. It was better to wait for the perfect moment. San Chin agreed, dodging the incoming attack and preparing for a more strategic approach. He decided to follow her advice and stay hidden. As they retreated temporarily, Linger quickly produced a map, explaining that it was a route leading directly to the wolf's lair, a secret path that only a few knew. San Chin was surprised that she had kept this information hidden until now, questioning why she had not shown it earlier. She smirked, teasing him, implying that he was beginning to enjoy her company, adding a touch of playfulness to their tense situation. Suddenly, a system message appeared, announcing an evolution. San Chin admired the magical gauntlet on his hand, admiring its intricate design and glowing runes, and wondered what it could evolve into. He attempted to enhance his elf bloodline, an essential trait for his powers, but the system refused his attempt, stating that the bloodline had already been fully evolved. Slightly disappointed, he murmured under his breath, blushing possibly from the effort. Deciding to make use of his abilities, San Chin extended his arm and activated a new power, his ghost ability. A strange blue energy began to swirl behind him, coalescing into a muscular, water-made doppelganger of himself. The water clone fell to the ground with a splash, shimmering with cold translucent might. Recognizing its potential, San Chin instructed the clone to utilize a skill called Seven Arrow Rain. The clone prepared to unleash its attack, but San Chin quickly intervened. He asked it to wait momentarily, wanting to confirm whether this skill could be used effectively and if the clone could execute it. As his clone demonstrated the ability, San Chin realized this was a powerful tool, one that could significantly improve his combat capabilities. Driven by a surge of inspiration, he ordered the clone to activate a special evolution, hoping to push his powers even further. The clone responded by evolving, and a notification appeared. Unexpectedly, instead of boosting his ghost skills, the evolution transformed the ghost ability itself, making it even more formidable. The new ghost skill, dubbed Eighth Arrow Rain, had reduced mana costs and dealt increased damage. The system updated its estimation of San Chin's chances of victory to a mere score of about 20%. Not satisfied with this modest probability, San Chin decided to enhance the skill further. He evolved it again, pushing past previous limits. The evolution once again modified the skill, lowering its mana cost and boosting its damage output. As a result, the system's assessment of his odds improved, rising to about 34%, granting him hope that better strategies and stronger powers could turn the tide of this impending battle. The evolution of the ability known as Fantas soon unlocked another remarkable capacity within Senching. With this newfound power, he could summon an additional clone almost instantaneously. However, activating this enhancement of abilities was not as straightforward as it appeared. Each time he invoked it, the cooldown period was shared among all active clones. This meant that summoning one clone, then trying to trigger the evolution again immediately afterward, wouldn't work as simply as he hoped, because the cooldown timer was a limiting factor. He quickly realized that if he wanted to maximize the effectiveness of this skill, he had to plan carefully, managing his cooldowns and summoning all possible clones before activating the evolution. His strategy was to exhaust all resources first before unleashing the ability again, otherwise he would be wasting precious recovery time. Turning toward the nearby non-player character, Sanqing declared, "We need a solid plan to improve our chances of victory." The NPC responded with a question, "Where are we headed?" Sun Qing's face lit up with a sly smile as he said, "That's a surprise." His destination was shrouded in mystery, yet it was clear that the journey would lead them underwater, where enormous creatures lurked in the depths, hunting for fish. Their underwater scene was tense and full of activity. Massive aquatic creatures darted through the water, attempting to catch swift fishes. Suddenly, one of the giant predators was distracted by a playful arrow that struck its head, startling it momentarily. Sanqing managed to procure some crocodile meat, which he knew would be beneficial. This meat increased his movement speed by 30% and his agility by 10% for half a minute. To enhance their hunting efficiency, he summoned his ghost clone to aid in the catch, realizing how effective this method was for distributing their effort. In the span of an hour, they worked tirelessly. It appeared that Linger had consumed some of the same meat, which not only boosted her cooperation but also helped them gather high-quality fish. They collected a substantial amount of advanced carp meat, confident that it would serve them well in their upcoming confrontation with the dreaded White Wolf King. Sanqing explained that he now had 3 clones underwater, working simultaneously to gather as many potions as possible. Their goal was clear: prepare meticulously for the next battle, aiming to turn the tide in their favor. Linger, contemplating their progress, estimated that their chances of success now hovered around 40%. Sanqing stood up with conviction and declared, "That's enough. It's time to take down that monster." She pleaded to join him, eager to face the creature, but neither of them knew that a suspicious clan, watching from a distance, was gathering intelligence about their movements. Later, they arrived at the wolf's den. Sanqing instinctively summoned his clones, deploying them to set deadly traps around the cave entrance, an ability he had not yet explained fully. With a total of 4 clones, 3 summoning from himself and 1 by him directly, they patiently waited for the cooldown timer to reset. As it did, they quickly laid even more traps, filling the ground with spikes, snares, and hidden pitfalls within seconds. Linger suggested it was overkill and doubted whether this strategy would significantly increase their odds of victory. Sanqing explained that his primary aim was merely to restrict the wolf's movements, forcing it into a vulnerable position. She insisted that their chances remained below 50%, but Sanqing, with unwavering confidence, assured her, "You don't know everything. Leave it to me." He instructed her to hide behind a nearby tree and stay put, regardless of what happened, as he took his position at the cave's entrance. Suddenly, the imposing White Wolf King emerged, charging straight for him, prompting Sanqing to murmur confidently that the trap was perfect. Yet, unexpectedly, the massive creature halted mid-charge, sniffed the air, and gazed at him for a tense moment before retreating back into the cave. The realization set in: the wolf was more cunning than he had anticipated. Sanqing continued to mock the beast, calling it a coward, taunting it from a safe distance, as Linger watched intently from afar, eager to see if she could intervene. While she observed, a stealthy figure crept up behind her, covering her mouth suddenly. A move so quick that the system promptly notified Sanqing that a trap had been triggered. Confused, he looked behind him and remembered earlier placements of traps near the rear of the cave. Turning around, he saw a group of players holding Linger captive, forcing her against her will. She kicked and screamed, desperately trying to break free, demanding her captors to release her. Two of the players complained about the traps, urging their leader to destroy them swiftly. As chaos ensued, San Qing appeared and demanded their release. Linger shouted that her groom-to-be would punish them if they didn't let her go, causing the leader to stop abruptly and ask her age. San Qing couldn't believe his ears. Such a brat was tarnishing his reputation with her wild accusations. She continued shouting, insisting her fiancé would arrive any moment to rescue her, leaving San Qing utterly baffled. Even the villains burst into laughter, mocking San Qing as the most despicable player in the game. The leader confronted him, asking whether he knew that this territory belonged to their guild. San Qing shrugged, insinuating he had heard it was part of the Green Serpent Guild's domain. The leader questioned whether he was insane to come here, and then accused him of being involved in an ambush. Approaching closer, they demanded to know if San Qing had orchestrated the attack on their members. San Qing denied the charges, insisting his only hope was that his allies would reappear and clarify the situation. The leader sneered, dismissing him as a coward incapable of defeating their guild's warriors. Recognizing that escalating the conflict would jeopardize his mission, San Qing carefully tried to steer the conversation away from hostility. He claimed he was merely wandering and had no intention of provoking trouble. But the leader, mocking, scoffed at his words, knowing full well that the most formidable creature in this area was nearby, and that its rewards belonged exclusively to their guild. San Qing began to wonder if confronting these enemies directly might be simpler than enduring their provocations. Suddenly, a better idea dawned on him. If they released Linger, he would reveal the location of their boss. He proposed, somewhat cautiously, that doing so could benefit everyone. The leader ridiculed his proposal, questioning who San Qing thought he was, some tactician capable of negotiations. At that moment, a young woman stepped forward, identifying the leader as Jiang Chun, the third young master of a prominent clan. She warned San Qing that Jiang Chun was ranked as the 27th strongest player in the entire game, and that he should show some respect. This revelation immediately reminded San Qing of his family's stake in the clan. His family privately held 40% of the shares in the conglomerate owned by Jiang Chen's family. Even Jiang Chen's father was friendly towards him, which explained much of his influence and confidence. With this information in mind, San Qing managed a slight smile, assuring Jiang Chun that he had heard of him before. Jiang Chun puffed his chest confidently, implying that if that were the case, San Qing should surrender all his wealth before he was punished. Nevertheless, San Qing chuckled and responded that he wasn't interested in escalating the conflict. He raised his arm nonchalantly, insinuating that they might be overreaching. Suddenly, a deep roar echoed from inside the cave, capturing everyone's attention. Both sides immediately realized that the boss was inside. Jiang Chen, eager and proud, declared that he and his elite team would be the first to hunt the creature. Without hesitation, the entire group surged toward the dark mouth of the cave, leaving their captives behind. The player clutching Linger dropped her into San Qing's arms, saying they had more urgent matters now and would deal with him later. Yet, both San Qing and Linger knew that these enemies had no real chance. They lacked understanding of their target's true nature, and had fallen right into the traps San Qing had meticulously set beforehand. In a matter of seconds, the entire group stepped into the ambush San Qing had prepared. The traps, carefully concealed, triggered instantly. The leader, taken aback, froze in place, unwittingly standing just outside the chaos as the wolf's massive silhouette emerged, ready to attack. His lack of awareness made him vulnerable. Behind him, the mage sensei quickly detected the creature's weak point, alerting the others that the boss was at level 20. Jiang Chun reassured everyone to remain calm. His confidence was rooted in the powerful talent he had recently acquired for his giant berserker. As the beast roared, the giant berserker thrashed and tore at the air, its massive frame rippling with power. The mage behind the scenes activated an aura, summoning an energy clone that began to grow rapidly, magnifying his strength an astonishing 150%. The creature, now fully agitated, prepared to strike, and the battle's real chaos was only beginning. In a realm fraught with danger and unforeseen challenges, the story unfolds around a figure whose skills had previously remained unknown even to himself. This individual, whose name was whispered among allies and foes alike as someone of remarkable talent, faced a mission that threatened to overturn everything he thought he understood about strength and survival. His journey began on the ground, amidst a landscape teeming with hostile creatures and treacherous terrain. A particular skill, almost lost in the shadows of his consciousness, suddenly surfaced, an ability so rare that it had never been part of his awareness before. It was a technique that could turn the tide of battle, yet its origins and potential were shrouded in mystery. Despite the uncertainty surrounding this newfound power, he remained resolute, fully aware that abandoning the mission at this critical juncture would spell disaster. However, he chose to trust in himself and the few companions who stood by his side. Meanwhile, his friends and comrades observed this silent determination with cautious hope. They wished him the best of luck, silently praying that his skills would be enough to see them through this ordeal. The protagonist, confident in his abilities, believed that no matter the formidable obstacle posed by the enemy chief or boss, his talent was enough to guarantee victory. After all, he had the support of his group's skilled healers, capable of restoring him if injuries occurred. With a sense of calculated daring, he charged forward, aiming to strike the first blow. Yet, in an instant the situation took a drastic turn. The boss, an immense, fearsome creature, suddenly lunged with surprising speed, piercing him through the chest with an attack that was both swift and merciless. The attack, powered by a creature of incredible strength, inflicted a damage value equivalent to 800 points, and the protagonist's reaction time was measured at less than a second. At this critical moment, another member of his group, perhaps less aware of the danger, found himself caught off guard. The target, a hapless ally, had remaining health points amounting to just 80, a small fraction of his initial vitality. Without warning, he was flung aside like little more than scrap, smashing onto the ground with a thud that echoed through the area, exploding into a cloud of dust and debris from the impact. This display of vulnerability sent the remainder of his group into a panic. Their instinct was to retreat, to escape from the formidable foe now pursuing them with relentless precision. Their hurried flight was marked by screams and hurried footsteps, but the protagonist kept his calm gaze fixed on their retreat, contemplating the chaos from a distance. Behind him, the boss's roar pierced the air, an indication that the beast was in pursuit, and a pack of wolves emerged from a nearby cave, their snarling figures illuminated by the dim light filtering through the trees. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the fleeing group members hurriedly debated whether to risk saving their leader or to focus solely on escape. The fragile girl, seemingly overwhelmed and indecisive, hesitated momentarily, desperately wanting to turn back. However, her companion, a brave or perhaps reckless individual, dismissed her concern, shouting that going back was foolish and that staying alive was more crucial. He sprinted ahead, urging others to either follow or stay behind if they wished. Turning back for a moment, he apologized to the boss, possibly in regret or a sense of duty, before his gaze shifted elsewhere. His eyes caught sight of someone advancing rapidly toward the beast, a figure whose presence was both enigmatic and alarming. The question arose in his mind about this daring individual's identity. Was this another lunatic risking everything? Indeed, it was Sen Kink, an individual notorious for his calculated cunning and deceptive strategies. His remark hinted at an intelligence greater than most anticipated, employing traps that he had laid himself in order to avenge previous losses. But now, his opponent was none other than the formidable enemy before him, an opponent who was proving to be more dangerous than expected. As the scene intensified, Kink found himself lying on the ground, assessing the situation carefully. The protagonist, who seemed to have descended into madness by confronting this creature directly, displayed a mindset driven by adrenaline and strategic calculation. Naturally, he did not wish to be struck again, and so he feigned death, hoping that the beast and others would overlook him. Meanwhile, the monstrous boss watched the protagonist with an almost calculating gaze. its eyes fixed intently upon him as if analyzing the intruder's movements. Abruptly, the beast launched an attack, but amidst the chaos of the battlefield, wolves from every direction seized the opportunity to attack the creature, howling and snapping as they encircled the beast in a ferocious assault. The clever individual, wearing a mask that granted him enhanced perception, touched his ear and muttered softly. To himself, he noted that these were merely wolves, nothing more than an obstacle designed to distract him. But then, with a quick motion, he activated a transformation. An armor resembling that of a white tiger imbued with electric energy, materializing above him and shooing away the surrounding wolves with an awe-inspiring display of power. Even the boss's demeanor exhibited a hint of bewilderment, confused by the sudden appearance of the mysterious figure and the ferocity of his attack. The creature sensed something was amiss and perceived the distinct aura of the hero inside the air. Before it could fully react, the hero was already in flight, launching a series of arrows into the beast's exposed form. The beast's agility was remarkable. It evaded the arrows with ease, closing the distance between itself and the attacker swiftly. San Kink swiftly realized that this speed far exceeded his own aiming capabilities, and he knew that to stand a chance, he had to step into the fray with everything he had. As the boss prepared a powerful attack, the hero made a split-second decision. He summoned his strength, risking everything as the chaos intensified. Blood splattered across the battlefield as the creature's claws tore through the air, aiming for the hero, who had only moments earlier been shielded by a magical barrier that vanished in an instant. The attack, devastating and precise, sliced into him, reducing his health points by 1,000 and stripping away his shield in a single act. Despite the brutal blow, the hero's smile persisted, an unsettling expression that seemed out of place amid the chaos. The attacker's inner resolve was clear. He had deliberately allowed the boss's strike to land. His reasoning was straightforward. By taking the hit, he ensured the timing for his counterattack would be perfect. From the shadows, multiple clone-like images of the hero appeared, an almost hypnotic display designed to confuse the enemy. These clones launched a barrage of 7 darts, each carrying a hefty punch, delivering damage that registered at less than 200 points per hit. The beast, battered and disoriented, staggered on the ground, its health dropping precipitously. The hero, kneeling amidst the fray, taunted the beast with a smirk, asking if it was enjoying the fight, excited by the chaos and destruction. Several of the darts managed to land, adding a significant toll to the monster's remaining vitality, which now stood at just over 2,300 points. The creature's chains, which had held it in check, shattered under the relentless assault, and it charged back at the hero with renewed fury. Its attack inflicted 1,000 points of damage, followed by an additional 800 as it struck the hero's chest directly. The hero's reflexes prompted him to dodge, a necessary move, albeit a close call. His mind raced with strategies, knowing that further evasive action was critical. The creature, surprisingly, paused for a moment, confused perhaps by the apparent resilience or the strange confidence of the hero. The hero's grin widened anew. He understood that conventional traps were insufficient against this beast. Hence, he had adopted a different approach, layering deception with endurance. He deliberately remained still, utilizing his body as a shield to keep the boss engaged longer. Concurrently, his clones multiplied, materializing above the beast to unleash an arsenal of attacks. With an almost ritualistic precision, they activated the 7 arrows skill once more, unleashing a concentrated assault dubbed the 21 hits continuous attack, a name perhaps derived from the mathematical fact that 7 times 3 equals 21. This relentless barrage pushed the beast into a corner. It tried to shake off the assault, staggering back and forth under the onslaught. The hero, steadfast and unwavering, prepared to deliver the final blow, commanding his summoned clones to attack with unyielding focus. The creature, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of attacks, struggled to retaliate or escape. In another part of the woodland, a different group of adventurers stirred with suspicion. They debated whether their prey, primarily wolves that roamed these woods, were indeed their target or merely a distraction. Suddenly, A burst of explosive energy erupted, temporarily halting their cautious discussion and pulling their attention from the forest depths. A hush had fallen over the forest, thick with the scent of damp earth and the crackle of distant fires. Amidst the stillness, a lone figure paused, eyes scanning the surroundings with cautious intent. A sense of unease crept into their consciousness, whispering that something was amiss. Suddenly, a subtle shimmer caught the corner of their eye, an anomaly, perhaps a sign of danger. The figure tensed, every nerve alert, as an ominous question echoed in their mind. Was someone deploying a nuclear device within the virtual battleground? Such thoughts rippled through their mind, intensifying their focus. Meanwhile, a young woman stood observing the chaos, her brow furrowed as she considered a disturbing possibility. Her intuition told her that what they faced might be the work of a hacker, a rogue wielding forbidden knowledge, capable of weaponizing virtual environments with devastating effect. Her mind raced, trying to decipher the strange anomalies and sudden surges of power threatening to consume their realm. She pondered whether someone's malicious code was infiltrating the system, turning the game into a battlefield of real-world consequences. Elsewhere, lingering on the sidelines, a figure with a serene smile watched the unfolding scene. Their face was calm, almost amused by the chaos swirling around. They found the whole spectacle incredible, a perfect display of chaos and resilience intertwined. Their lips curled into a gentle smile as they observed the chaos with a sense of quiet satisfaction. In stark contrast, the group's leader was sprawled across a crater, his health bar showing a precarious 75 points, barely clinging to life once again. Despite his dire condition, he seemed unperturbed, nonchalantly nibbling on a piece of crocodile meat, savoring the flavor as if it were just another mundane meal. Near him, lingering reassured him softly that the fight was nearly over, suggesting that his enemies had been vanquished. Yet the leader shrugged, dismissing the urgency. "There's no rush," he murmured, voice steady but muffled. "I still have things to do." His calm tone betrayed a confidence born from experience, an unwavering belief that even in the face of death, victory was within reach. The young woman who watched nearby looked on with a mixture of confusion and concern, puzzled by his relaxed attitude amid such chaos. The scene shifts to Jae-chun, a figure whose form was limply sprawled on the ground, playing dead. His eyes, half-lidded, stared into the void as he wondered why silence had fallen after the recent explosive clash. The terrifying boom from the explosion had echoed through the trees, yet now the area was eerily quiet. To ensure safety, he contemplated prolonging his feigned death, lying motionless with the hope that any nearby enemies would dismiss him as defeated. His heart pounded as he waited, cautious, listening intently for any signs of movement. Suddenly, a sharp glint pierced the air, and an arrow landed beside him with a muted thud. Startled, Jae-chun flicked his gaze and saw the vivid feathered shaft. His eyes widened in surprise as he recognized the shooter, S.H. Chin, a formidable opponent and a fellow player. Skeptical yet cautious, he asked her if she had truly killed the leader of their enemies. Her response was calm but confident. The monster was nearly at the brink of death, and her strike was the final blow. Jae-chun, trembling, knelt on his knees in remorse. "I couldn't recognize the greatness of that young warrior," he admitted, voice trembling with humility. "I underestimated him." The other nodded, acknowledging the gravity of their situation. The young hero, whom they all revered, was now on the edge of victory, but their ally sought to secure a future advantage. He extended an olive branch veiled in a proposal, a favor that could influence their next moves. Pointing his bow at the young warrior's neck, he explained that fulfilling this favor would open doors for their alliance. The young hero, understanding the potential leverage, listened carefully. He knew this family held some sway within the group, a possibility that could help him extricate himself from their predicament if he could secure their loyalty. He hesitated, contemplating the terms. The others around him seemed to realize the opportunity too, recognizing that solidifying this alliance would make it more difficult for their enemies to close in. It would at least delay their downfall, as real-world influence and in-game attributes would take time to synchronize. The process, the integration of virtual traits into reality, was complex and would require at least several months. During this period, the hero aimed for steady, uninterrupted progress, avoiding unnecessary conflicts that could jeopardize his path. Jae-chun asked if he was about to be shot with the arrow once he agreed, but the young hero merely responded that he should articulate his desires. Negotiation was not his forte, especially with individuals driven primarily by ambition. Such people often concealed their true motives, making it difficult to discern their intentions. The young hero found it unlikely they had pure motives, but offered a chance nonetheless. He convinced Jae-chun that cooperation could be mutually beneficial, especially if Jae-chun could help elevate his standing as the leader of the Green Serpent Gang. A faint smile played on the hero's face as he prepared to unleash his power. Energy, shimmering with a golden hue, radiated outward, illuminating the area even as the arrow, released with deadly precision, flew toward the leader. The creature's body convulsed and swiftly died, its demise marking the completion of their pact. Instantly, the hero's experience points surged, and he ascended 2 levels, a testament to the power unlocked through this alliance. Jae-chun, now with a newfound respect, expressed his eternal gratitude, promising to return the favor someday. However, the hero, a bit dismissive, requested that he stop addressing him as brother, emphasizing that they were not that close. He warned that any attempt to drag his name into trouble might have serious consequences. Jae-chun swore his loyalty, claiming he would never betray such trust and promising unwavering dedication. Soon after, the hero called for Linger, informing her that it was time to depart. Before leaving, he turned to San-ching, informing her that once the moment arrived, she would be notified. Watching the 2 companions walk away, San-ching took a moment to heal herself, quietly vowing to repay this debt someday. Her mind was focused, her resolve steadfast. Not long after, frustration boiled over. She grew angry at a non-player character, a girl proposing marriage. She shouted, berating the NPC for being nothing more than a collection of data, and told her in no uncertain terms to stop talking nonsense and stay out of her sight. The girl retaliated, biting her in the neck, but the woman pushed her aside, irritated. She wondered who had designed such a wild, unpredictable character, and criticized the game's creators for their eccentric choices. Turning away, she ordered the girl to leave, craving the chance to inspect the loot instead. Among the gains from the recent battle was a pair of white wolf trousers, a rare item. As long as her health remained full, these trousers would boost her movement speed by 100%. The moment she equipped them, her agility seemed to soar, feeling almost like she could fly. She also received wolf claws, an effective weapon suitable for the assassin class, as well as a white wolf hide, an exceedingly rare object used in high-level missions and valued for its rarity and utility. Furthermore, she acquired the ability to summon wolf companions, an invaluable skill for a solo player. Instantly, she learned to wield these beast allies effectively. The rest of her loot consisted of gold, crystalline items, and various consumables, each promising to enhance her abilities during future encounters. Meanwhile, Lady Ju, a revered figure, wondered aloud why her companions had not yet returned. She continued to complain that the village chief's negligence was to blame for leaving a young girl in the company of such risky individuals. Her concern deepened when she noticed something through the corner of her eye, a flash of movement as her 2 friends re-emerged, returning to her side. Linger hurried forward, grasping her hand, her face radiating relief as she whispered that she had been protected by their young hero. San-ching, observing this scene, produced a wolf hide, presenting it confidently. "Here is what you asked for," she said warmly, a smile softening her face. The leader nodded appreciatively, remarking that he had never imagined this subordinate capable of such initiative. Her warm, albeit awkward, demeanor caused her cheeks to flush, and she simply said that it was fine. She produced a scroll, explaining that the designated area was suitable for levels 20 to 40, allowing her to farm safely, as no other players would disturb her there. Seeing this, the leader responded by handing her the scroll and encouraging her not to worry. The girl then asked if she was planning to follow him into the next zone, hesitating briefly before her mother intervened. Her mother scolded her sternly, ordering her to stop talking to her daughter that way, and warned her against reckless actions. Meanwhile, the girl protested her desire to accompany her companion, but Lady Ju, facing her, pointed out that with the map in her possession, she could leave at any time. The girl hesitated, feeling unsure, and the leader explained that he had acquired the map in exchange for an exceedingly rare item, and that he sensed they were being exploited. The village headwoman accused him of trying to take advantage of her, but San Qing, unfazed, held up her finger and summoned a golden light, a sign of her power. She asked if this was truly the reward she deserved, and the girl nodded, accepting the skill. The young hero expressed his gratitude, recognizing that the skill was indeed an epic attack, an ability to channel power for 7 seconds, unleashing maximum damage over an extended range. He celebrated inwardly, remarking that she clearly possessed a hidden treasure. The story shifts to a breathtaking scene, a golden arrow soaring across the vast expanse of the ocean. The hero, viewing his surroundings with awe, marveled at the extent of his abilities, how far his powers could reach. He looked to the sky, silently thanking the leader for his aid, then turned to linger with a small, satisfied smile. He told her to activate her speed boost and proceed, then sprinted away into the distance, his figure fading into the horizon. In the vibrant, bustling world of the game, a young adventurer named San Qin found himself amidst a flurry of activity and anticipation. His voice rose in frustration as he shouted into the air, proclaiming that he had no heart left inside him. This scene played out by the vast shoreline of a mysterious place called the Suburb, a sprawling zone filled with unknown dangers and enticing treasures. Clutching a mystical scroll, a seemingly ancient parchment, San Qin watched as something ethereal and inexplicable materialized from the void upon the ground. Before his eyes, an entire city took shape out of nothingness, a marvel born purely from the power of the parchment he held. This city, which he recognized instantly as Roy, was a realm of complexity and promise. It was a place filled with opportunities, abundant with valuable items and challenging missions alike. In his previous life within the game, San Qin had only begun his journey late, wasting countless hours tending to mundane tasks such as slaughtering cows, which left little room for meaningful adventure. By the time he reached Roy, most of the prime quests and potent artifacts had already been claimed by others, leaving him with sparse options. Yet, the grandeur of Roy carried a crucial secret. Once a player ascended to level 40, the city would assign a special quest, an assignment that would transfer certain attributes into the real world. Failure to complete this mission could cause intense pain for someone named Tianai, whose suffering would be doubled as a consequence of San Qin's actions. Such dark stakes made the city more than just a playground. It was a gateway to consequences that extended beyond the virtual realm. Before embarking on his next venture, San Qin knew he had to organize his inventory. He headed toward an auction house teeming with activity, where female attendants with rabbit-like ears scurried about, diligently preparing for upcoming sales. The atmosphere resembled that of his past experiences, where the game world was flourishing with life and commerce, a mirror of real-world vitality. A healthy-looking rabbit girl approached him promptly, her eyes shining with curiosity. She asked if he was there to auction something. Without delay, she led him to a table, explaining that the auction house would take a 10% commission from all sales, standard practice in such places. She also inquired whether he wished to have his name associated with his auctioned items, but San Qin preferred anonymity, opting to remain unrecognized amid the crowd. As he moved closer to the stage, a voice announced the arrival of item number 188. The crowd's reactions indicated that a girl was ascending the podium. Judging by the excited whispers and eager gazes of the other bidders, it was clearly an event of great interest. As expected, a character of exceptional confidence and resilience was about to showcase her presence. Someone who would not be easily subdued, even if they tried. The auctioneer introduced the item, a bronze ring, claimed to be of middling rarity, but with notable benefits. The announcer explained that the ring granted a 10% increase in luck, a 5% boost to the rate of item drops, and a 5% increase in gold earned from loot. Such enhancements could significantly impact a player's success in the game. Most of the audience appeared unimpressed initially, but a woman scolded a young man for ogling the girl. San Chin, however, understood that the ring's true value could be far greater, possible rarities like gold or diamond grades, making it extremely desirable for discerning collectors or ambitious players. The bidding soon commenced, with contestants eager to outbid one another, driven by the potential for strategic advantage. The auctioneer asked if anyone would bid more than 30 coins of gold, prompting San Chin to raise his hand and offer a single gold coin. Confusion spread among the crowd. Why would anyone pay so much for a mere bronze item? But then, unexpectedly, another bidder countered with a bid of 10 gold coins, igniting a furor of excitement and chaos among the onlookers. Some viewed this as madness, a reckless overspend on something of little apparent value. Nonetheless, the unexpected participant, seemingly confident, smirked and increased his bid to 30 coins of gold. The other bidder didn't hesitate. Gathering his nerve, he raised the bid again, to 50 gold coins, causing a ripple of astonishment. The auctioneer joked about how demanding the customers could be, but the real drama unfolded when the man in the hat cautioned San Chin to surrender, claiming that when it came to money, he always won. Yet, to everyone's surprise, San Chin raised his hand once more, bidding 100 gold coins, the highest bid yet. Silence fell over the crowd as the stakes soared sky-high. The auctioneer called out, counting down the final moments before declaring the item sold, hammer striking decisively. With that decisive bid, San Chin secured the coveted ring of greed, a symbol of ambition and risk-taking. His task now was simple. Wait 8 hours for the ring's power to evolve, promising even greater treasures in the future. The man in the hat nodded approvingly, acknowledging San Chin's daring, but warning him to remember this moment, both its significance and its potential consequences. Finally, the man departed, leaving San Chin contemplating the event. Lost in thought, San Chin wondered whether the man would seek revenge. Suddenly, a slap on his face shattered his focus. A light-hearted gesture from a whimsical character known as the Floating Flyer, the playful walking flotator. The floating girl, with a mischievous grin, announced that tonight belonged to Ella, calling all the shots. San Chin, puzzled, asked what that meant, only to receive a cryptic explanation. If the man was willing to spend so much on the ring, it must mean he cared deeply for Ella as a gift. This revelation surprised San Chin. Apparently, that was a feature of the auction system he had not previously realized. Such exchanges often involved sentimental tokens as well as pure value. She placed her hand upon her chest and reassured him not to worry. Even if this was merely a game, the experience was better than reality. In the simulated world, worries and fears didn't exist. They were free to act without concern. However, San Chin's curiosity grew. Was the man truly unaware of the ring's true nature? Or was he merely blinded by greed? This line of thought led him to push Ella, questioning her about her plans. She responded calmly, saying she was waiting for the right experience. Her expression, however, shifted subtly when another figure appeared behind San Chin, addressing him directly. The stranger cast a glance and noted that San Chin possessed some valuable items he might be interested in. He asked if the young adventurer wanted to peruse his collection. San Chin turned to face him, arms crossed, instructing him to show what he had. The stranger, observing San Chin's recent reckless spending, having immersed over 100 gold coins into a questionable artifact, believed it would be easy to exploit him. The man presented a whole array of terrible bronze objects, each more useless than the last, attempting to tempt San Chin into buying junk. San Chin, unamused, dismissed the auction, declaring that he had no interest in such worthless items. The merchant's face twisted in frustration. He claimed that San Chin lacked an eye for quality and needed to be taught a lesson. The man's hand moved toward his neck aggressively, as if preparing for violence, but San Chin was quick to act. He asked whether the man truly wanted to die, a calm yet threatening question that made the intruder pause. At that moment, the floating flyer stepped in, her voice sharp and commanding, telling the aggressive merchant to leave immediately. She warned him that the security team was watching, and any disturbance within the auction house was strictly forbidden. The security team, a formidable group, more akin to muscular, steroid-enhanced enforcers, appeared promptly. The intruder, realizing he was no match, scowled and spat out insults before departing with a huff, calling everyone fools. San Chin refrained from taking drastic action. He understood that provoking the security would result in banishment from the auction house altogether. Turning back to the floating girl, he asked if, now that he had purchased the ring, he could proceed as planned. She urged him not to be so straightforward. After all, there were more subtle strategies. He suggested managing the wealth he would gain from future auctions, estimating that he could earn at least 800 coins of gold by selling weapons and other valuable items. The scene left him contemplating his next moves, eager to maximize his gains and enhance his power within this complex world. The auction house, a hub of ambition and cunning dealings, had once again proven to be a place where fortunes can be won or lost in moments of daring and wit. As the hours passed and the city of Roy awaited his next move, San Chin knew that every decision could lead him further toward mastery or peril. In a world swirling with mystery and hidden agendas, a young man named San Chin found himself thrust into a labyrinth of danger and intrigue. His story began on a seemingly ordinary day in the bustling city of Roy, a place teeming with life, danger, and secrets buried beneath its vibrant surface. Roy was known for its peculiarities, rarer than usual artifacts, elusive treasures that only the most skilled adventurers could hope to find. The city was a maze of alleyways and markets, each corner hiding stories from 1,000 years past, and treasures that might hold the key to power, wealth, or secrets governments would kill to protect. San Chin's journey truly began when he decided to purchase a ring that seemed unremarkable at first glance. But in truth, it carried significance far beyond its modest appearance. The moment he acquired it, he knew that this ring, along with other objects in Roy's markets, was rare and difficult to obtain. It was a piece of a puzzle only a handful of those daring enough to venture into Roy's depths could hope to solve. His choice was deliberate. Every step, every decision, was motivated by the desire to advance, to uncover, and to prevail in a world where power lied in what others overlooked. Before heading to a particularly dangerous district filled with creatures of formidable strength, San Chin made a crucial stop to upgrade his equipment. Upon entering a modest shop, he was greeted not just as a customer but as someone with a purpose. Inside, an artisan was mumbling to himself, clearly distressed. His hands clutched a hammer, an essential tool without which he could not function. The artisan's tone was anxious. He had lost his hammer, and without it, his work was halted, frozen in time. San Chin noticed the lost hammer lying nearby, half buried beneath a pile of scrap. With quiet determination, he retrieved it, holding it out to the artisan, who stared in disbelief. Amazement flickered across the artisan's face as he recognized the hammer and understood its importance. Without hesitation, San Chin asked if the man needed it, as if it was a minor favor. The artisan, overwhelmed, gratefully raised the hammer skyward, expressing that it was exactly what he required. It was a moment of silent understanding, a covert exchange of trust and purpose. This event wasn't ordinary. It was an embedded secret mission. The artisan explained that he could improve any object at no cost, an offer that held the promise of significant upgrades. San Chin, seeing the potential, handed over his bow, requesting the highest possible enhancement. The process, far more efficient than fighting monsters or hunting rare beasts, would utilize a hidden system, a secret event, where returning a specific item would trigger a complementary upgrade. This method applied to any object, but notably not the maximum rarity level, only to the highest upgrade level accessible. The artisan accepted and began his work, taking about 20 minutes to complete the enhancement. When finished, San Chin inspected the result, noting that the bow had been elevated to its 10th level, a considerable improvement but not the ultimate. He acknowledged that he would soon acquire something even better, so he was satisfied with the upgrade for now. Gratified, he left the shop and continued onward. His destination was the woods surrounding Roy, a territory populated by creatures that boasted levels reaching as high as 60. Such creatures made the area incredibly dangerous, and for safety, Sun Qin decided to wait for his evolution skill to cool down before venturing into the forest's ominous depths. Unbeknownst to him, however, he was being watched. A pair of piercing eyes peered from the shadows of the bushes, observing his movements intently. Suddenly, an arrow shot through the air, whizzing past his face. San Qin sensed danger and turned sharply, narrowly avoiding the projectile. The arrow grazed his cheek, a close call that sent a tremor of adrenaline through him. The attacker was someone hidden, concealed in the shadows, calculating and silent. From the darkness emerged a man adorned with a broad-brimmed hat, his presence both unsettling and commanding. He marveled at San Qin's agility, acknowledging his impressive reflexes. Yet, beneath that acknowledgement was a calculated calm, an assessment of the situation. The man admitted he hadn't expected San Qin to dodge so skillfully. San Qin, wary but composed, asked what he was doing in this restricted zone. The man, whom San Qin recognized as Silva, then signaled for an entire group to step forward from the shadows. The others emerged stealthily, revealing a collection of dangerous figures. San Qin's gaze fell on a peculiar sight, a floating robot, a mechanical contraption that had been captured. Internally alarmed, he demanded to know why they had taken it, especially since it still had work to do for him. Silva, the man in the hat, sneered and demanded a ransom, 100 gold coins. He taunted that Silva probably had many more to share with his comrades. The girl, an elf form, was visibly distressed, explaining that her belongings had been stolen by this group, robbed of everything she possessed. The older man mocked her, calling her foolish for thinking that just because she hadn't bought anything, her money wouldn't be stolen. Without mercy, he kicked her aside, dismissing her as trash that had ruined their plans. Turning his scornful gaze back to San Qin, the man in the hat declared that their paths had finally crossed once again with a smile of grim satisfaction. San Qin responded coolly, stating that he tolerated theft but would never allow anyone to harm someone working under his protection. The gathered group fell silent, sensing the resolve in his voice. The man in the hat, Silva, then claimed that they weren't really hurting her, merely putting on a little show for him. Suddenly, he cast the girl onto the ground and appeared to attack her again. The girl screamed in pain, her anguish impossible to ignore, and it was clear that San Qin's patience was running thin. Sparks began to flicker around him, a sign of his rising power, an electric aura that signaled he was preparing for conflict. The man with white hair, a confidant of Silva, advanced, seemingly intent on unleashing an attack. San Qin calmly declared it was time for the villain to die, but before he could strike, San Qin moved swiftly, unexpectedly. The white-haired man lunged from behind, aiming to catch San Qin unprepared, but San Qin responded just as quickly. Miraculously, San Qin evaded, sliding behind him in a blur. From the sky, a dart of energy, a projectile, sped through the air and struck the white-haired man like a comet, halting his movements. San Qin simply commented that he was too slow. Bewildered, the white-haired attacker collapsed to the ground. His companions, stunned and filled with rage, stared in disbelief. They demanded an explanation for how San Qin could have incapacitated their ally so effortlessly. San Qin, however, remained composed, dismissing their panic with a mere flick of his fingers. To their astonishment, twin clones appeared beside him, archers from each side releasing a barrage of arrows that pierced the bodies of the defeated duo. Both duplicates fell lifeless instantly, their presence fading as if they had never existed. Meanwhile, Silva, observing the chaos, clapped his hands slowly, a genial smile on his face. He expressed admiration for San Qin's strength, hinting that he had expected nothing less from someone of his caliber. San Qin stayed silent, watching the scene unfold with a calm yet piercing gaze. Silva introduced himself as Susa, explaining that the individuals who had attacked were mere pawns, easily expendable. He revealed that he had activated a detection skill on San Qin, and discovered that his current level was only at 15. With a small, dismissive gesture, San Chin expressed impatience, asking Silva to get straight to the point. Silva then inquired whether he was the number 1 player, a potent figure wielding influence over this realm. San Chin confirmed that he was, and Silva, in a gesture of apparent friendliness, returned 70 fragments and the gold stolen during the attack, extending his hand in an offer of friendship. He proposed forming an alliance, suggesting that together they could dominate the entire world, controlling all there was to control, and possessing any woman they desired. San Chin, unamused, simply declined. His voice was steady and clear, indicating he had no interest in trivial pursuits like power-hungry alliances or material possessions. His true desire was personal vengeance. Silva's expression shifted slightly, surprise flickering across his face as he inquired about this intent. San Chin calmly replied that what he sought was obvious: revenge. Silva, taken aback, hesitated and began to step back, stating that San Chin could contact him anytime if he changed his mind. Just as Silva turned to leave, a swift arrow shot through the air, tearing through Silva's cloak, forcing him to stumble. The piercing arrow left a streak across his back, a reminder of how quickly things could change when least expected. In the silence that followed, San Chin's gaze remained fixed, steady and unyielding. His resolve burned brighter than ever. The shadows of the forest seemed to listen to his silent vow, the vow of a warrior driven by a mission that transcended petty rivalries and fleeting alliances. The world around him was fraught with danger, but he moved forward, rooted in purpose and driven by the need for justice that refused to be silenced by darkness. Every step he took was a testament to his strength, his unbreakable will. He understood that the path ahead was fraught with peril, and that enemies lurked behind every corner, waiting for a mistake. Yet, he pressed on, knowing that victory belonged to those who dared to face the shadows, who fought for what was right, and who refused to surrender their spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. His story was far from over, and as he disappeared into the depths of the woods, the echoes of his unwavering resolve lingered, a silent promise that he would continue to fight, for himself, for justice, and for the future that he alone was destined to forge.